I was clearly training in martial arts. How I became a being with supernatural powers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176, Silencing. The Zhangkangjin incident is really none of my business. I remember that 3 months ago, Zhangkangjin was ordered to come to our place to deal with an evil cultivator. Later, he worked with a mysterious man, Liu Yan, to deal with the evil cultivator. After Zhangkangjin left, I was thinking of writing the case file truthfully. But in less than a day, the county lieutenant found me and asked me to change the case file. You also know that a higher ranking official can crush someone, not to mention my direct superior. I can only change it as he wants me to, Wan Tai said cautiously. Then how did Zhangkangjin die? Qin Yang said in a low voice. I really didn't know that. Not long after I changed the case file, the people from the Zunming department came to my door and asked for the case file. I was still scared at the time, but later I found that nothing happened. At that time, I felt that the matter was not simple, and I never dared to mention it to anyone. Wan Tai whispered. He actually guessed something in his heart. Zhangkangjin was probably killed by someone, and the person who killed him was very cunning. Qin Yang's eyes flickered. Do you remember what the person from the Zunming department looked like? I didn't see that person wearing a mask. Wan Tai shook his head. Then how did you confirm the other party's identity? Qin Yang frowned. At that time, he showed me the token. I thought about the county lieutenant's instructions, so I hurriedly handed over the case file. Wan Tai said carefully. Qin Yang thought about it and suddenly tapped Wan Tai several times. Wan Tai wailed in pain. But he remembered Qin Yang's instructions just now and covered his mouth tightly. I pressed a few fatal points on your body. If I don't help you unlock them within 3 days, you will definitely die. Pretend that you haven't seen me today. Don't make a fuss when you go back. After I find out the matter, I will naturally unlock the fatal points for you. After Qin Yang finished speaking, he left the wing room directly. In fact, he didn't know how to press the fatal points in this way. He just used a little more force just now. But Wan Tai had no means to distinguish the true from the false. After Qin Yang left, he slowly stopped wailing and sat back on the bench, his eyes panicking, and he kept pouring tea to drink. Now Wan Tai prayed that Qin Yang would quickly figure things out and then untie his Achilles heel. At night, in the lobby of the inn, Qin Yang was having dinner. Roast chicken, roast duck, braised beef. The dishes were quite rich. Liu Yan walked in, exhausted, and walked over when he saw Qin Yang. It seems that you have gained a lot. Liu Yan sat down directly. This matter is not difficult to investigate. I have locked onto a person, the county lieutenant Yifeng. Qin Yang picked up a piece of beef. I didn't gain anything here. I just found out from a beggar that Zhangkangjin did leave Mengshan County. He should have been killed on the way back to the Zunshan division. Liu Yan said softly. Then I guess even the body can't be found. Qin Yang said lightly. These days, there are too many ways to destroy corpses and cover up traces. Then I can only go to this county lieutenant tonight to talk to him. Liu Yan said softly. Are you hungry? If you're not hungry, we'll set off. Qin Yang said with a smile. At this time, Yifeng should leave the county government office and return to his own mansion. Let's go. Liu Yan was in no mood to eat. The two got up and left the inn, heading towards Yifeng's mansion. As for where Yifeng's mansion was, Qin Yang had naturally done his homework. When he led Liu Yan into a street, he saw black smoke billowing and flames in the distance. The fire broke out. Some panicked shouts also came from a distance. Not good. Qin Yang's expression changed slightly. Hurry up and take a look. Liu Yan also frowned. The two figures flashed and rushed towards the fire. Soon, they saw a mansion burning with a raging fire. Looking from the outside, they could only see a plaque with the words Yi Mansion hanging on the door of the mansion. The two immediately rushed into the mansion. Qin Yang used the beaming black water true skill, exuding an extremely cold aura, and the heat had no effect on him at all. Liu Yan was also surrounded by green light, isolating the flames. The two of them searched in the mansion separately. Qin Yang started from the back house. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a body lying tragically dead on the bed. Qin Yang went forward to take a look. The body was very young, and it should have been killed by someone cutting his throat. When he walked through a corridor, he could also see the bodies of several maids and servants, who were also cut by a knife. Finally, he came to the place where the fire was the most intense. It should be the master bedroom. When Qin Yang rushed in, he didn't even see the body, but he noticed some sticky black ash on the ground. Corpse burning talisman. Qin Yang frowned. This kind of trace is usually produced after using the corpse burning talisman. Qin Yang knew without guessing that these black ashes should be left by Yifeng. One step back, Qin Yang shook his head and left the room. After that, he found Liu Yan, who also had no gains, and the two could only leave the Yi mansion first. I didn't expect the other party to act so quickly. Liu Yan frowned slightly. There is another person who can at least prove your innocence. Qin Yang said softly. This person is naturally Wang Tai. However, Wang Tai may also be assassinated, so he must be found quickly. The two went to Yichen Fang again, but this time, they were still a step late. A raging fire was burning the brothel. Many people were carrying buckets to put out the fire. Qin Yang still rushed into the brothel and saw sticky black ash in the wing room where he had talked with Wang Tai before. He was silenced again. What a quick reaction. Qin Yang shook his head gently. With the death of Yifeng and Wang Tai, the case of Zhang Kangjin became more confusing. However, Qin Yang still got a lot of useful information. This matter must be related to the Zunming department. The two returned to the lobby of the inn again. Qin Yang, why do you think Zhang Kangjin was killed? Did he offend someone? Or because of something else? Liu Yan asked with a frown. It's all possible. There are too few clues at the moment. I'll report this matter back and make plans. But don't worry, no one from the patrol department will chase you later. Qin Yang said softly. That's not the problem. I don't have much contact with Brother Zhang, but he is indeed a good man. I think he should be given an explanation. Liu Yan shook his head. Don't worry, as Yuxi man died for no reason, and it is related to the patrol department. The higher-ups will definitely investigate. Qin Yang smiled. I hope so. Liu Yan nodded. After the two stayed in the inn for another night, they spent a day on the road and returned to Yangning Prefecture. When they separated in the city, Liu Yan told Qin Yang that if he had any clues about Zhang Kangjin, he could go to the Zuaniuan temple on the outskirts of the city to find him. After Qin Yang said goodbye to Liu Yan, he returned to the patrol department in the city and found Leng Kang. Chapter 177 Stronghold. The county lieutenant and the head of the police are both dead. I had originally changed Liu Yan's death to your knife and sealed the case file. I didn't expect the other party to be so cautious and still send people to Mingshan County to kill people to silence them. In the tea room, Leng Kang heard Qin Yang's report. His face was cold and stern. The Black Hand that secretly killed Zhang Kangjin was really arrogant. Even the county lieutenant and the head of the police were killed at will. This person didn't take the government into consideration at all and was extremely rampant. Moreover, according to Qin Yang's description, the other party was most likely someone from the Zunming division. Now that everyone is dead, the relevant traces must have been wiped out. I'm afraid it will be difficult to find this person. Qin Yang said lightly. This matter cannot be tolerated. I will continue to investigate. You have worked hard too. According to what we agreed in advance, 500 contribution points. And before, in order to cover for you, I rewrote and sealed Liu Yan's case file. Then the 600 contribution points are still added to your token. Leng Kang smiled. Director Leng is really generous, unlike Lu Shengai who is so fussy. Qin Yang's eyes lit up. This was an unexpected surprise. 500 contributions plus 600 contribution points, that is 1100 contribution points. In exchange for more than 30 Yunshu pills, there are enough for him to cultivate to the true gang realm. Leng Kang smiled. If there is nothing else, I will deal with other things. There is really another thing. Qin Yang smiled. Leng Kang was slightly stunned. Qin Yang seemed to be smiling, but he felt the cold murderous intent that seemed to be there and not there. What is it? Leng Kang's face was serious. I was attacked when I went to Mingshan County. This person is the third owner of the Blackfish building. Qin Yang said lightly. Blackfish building. Leng Kang frowned. This Blackfish building seems to be unknown among ordinary people, but in fact it is a very large and tight underground organization. It also has an unclear relationship with the Fu Hao mansion, which is very tricky. What do you want? Leng Kang asked. Anti-tooth for an anti-tooth. If the Blackfish house dares to come to me, I will come to my door, Qin Yang said indifferently. Although it is a troubled time now, Leng Kang's idea is to deal with the internal problems of the Sky Patrol division first, and then go to the other party, the Blackfish house, but he also has to consider Qin Yang's emotions. Besides, the other party dared to attack and kill Zhu Ziren. It is really impossible not to teach him a lesson. Go to Tongquan, and he will lead you, Leng Kang said softly. Then it's okay. Qin Yang nodded. Do a good job, Leng Kang added. I promise to make a big fuss for you. Qin Yang laughed. 500 contribution points will be awarded for destroying the Blackfish house stronghold, Leng Kang also added. This is his support for Qin Yang's revenge. Qin Yang twisted his neck when he heard it. Facts prove it. Good wine is afraid of deep alleys. Such a good wine, but few people come to buy it. What a pity. Qin Yang came to the wine shop in the alley again and sighed slightly. How many jars do you want to buy, sir? Tongquan asked with a smile. I'm not here to buy wine. Qin Yang shook his head. It's because there are too many people like you that my wine shop's business is so bad. Tongquan shook his head slightly. Is it all my fault? Qin Yang was surprised. Just complaining a little. Then what does the sir want? Tongquan asked with a smile. Qin Yang dipped his finger in the wine in the bowl and wrote a few words on the table. Blackfish Tower Base. Tongquan was slightly stunned and said seriously, have you thought about it? Of course I have thought about it. Qin Yang nodded slightly. This organization has 5 bases in the city. Which one do you want to go to? Tongquan asked. The closest one to here, Qin Yang said casually. That's Changfeng Escort Agency. This escort agency is considered a second-rate force in Yangning's Hao City. The first, second, and third escort heads are all real gang warriors. The Blackfish Tower uses the name of the escort agency to not only collect various intelligence materials, but also secretly transport various contraband items. Tongquan said in a deep voice. In Yangning Prefecture, if there is no Grandmaster Warrior in charge, it cannot be considered a first-class force. Of course, this is just a base of the Blackfish building in Yangning Prefecture. Changfeng Escort Agency, that's it. Qin Yang's eyes flashed coldly. This time, he did not disguise himself and quickly left the wine shop and walked on the street openly. After turning 2 streets, Qin Yang came to a spacious courtyard. There was a plaque hanging in the courtyard, and the 4 words Changfeng Escort Agency were written in iron pen and silver hook. Shouts came from the courtyard. Qin Yang carried the Hanua knife on his back and walked directly in. In the courtyard, a team of dozens of escorts were packing up the goods and saluting. On the other side, there were dozens of strong men who were training their blood and practicing boxing. Brother, are you here to ask for escort? A man saw Qin Yang and came over to ask. Don't you know me? Qin Yang said strangely. He was now showing his true face. No. The man shook his head. Very good. Qin Yang nodded. Bang. The next moment, a thunderous sound suddenly exploded in the courtyard. It made people's eardrums hurt. The man was hit in the chest by Qin Yang's palm. The terrifying and brutal impact instantly shattered his ribs, and his flesh and blood collapsed into him, and he flew backwards fiercely. Clang as the man fell to the ground, a dagger fell out from his sleeve. You can't even hide your murderous intentions. Still want to act in front of me? You bastards from the Blackfish building. I'm here to kill you. Qin Yang grinned at everyone at the Changfeng Escort Agency. A fierce and murderous aura rose from him. In a moment, the Changfeng Escort Agency became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone in the courtyard turned around and looked at Qin Yang with cold eyes. Kill. No one knew who said it. In a moment, dozens of people turned into black shadows, wrapped in a tragic knife light, and slashed towards Qin Yang. Qin Yang laughed loudly, and his Hunyuan Qi was running, turning into a black armored evil dragon that wrapped around his body, and his figure also rushed out. He didn't draw the Hunyuan sword, but his pair of iron fists were already invincible. Bang, bang, bang like a dragon and an elephant going crazy. He rushed into the crowd and trampled wildly. Qin Yang's pair of iron arms swung out like an elephant's trunk, accompanied by a fierce fist, constantly smashing people apart. As long as he was lightly touched by his arms, his bones would be shattered. Figures flew out like cannonballs. Screams rang out in the courtyard. Bang! The courtyard of Changfeng Escort Agency shook violently. A man was crushed in the head by Qin Yang's foot. Whoosh! A sharp knife light came from behind. Qin Yang turned around and kicked out with his right leg. Bang! The man who attacked Qin Yang was kicked in the waist and abdomen. Because the force was too terrifying, Qin Yang's right leg was like a sharp knife, and he actually cut the man in half. When the two bodies fell to the ground, the stench of blood spread rapidly throughout the Changfeng Escort Agency. For a moment, no one in the entire escort agency was standing except Qin Yang. But the next moment, dozens of figures rushed out of the escort agency building. The leader was a strong man with a gnarled beard and a huge sword on his back. Chapter 178 Storm. Qin Yang, Zhao Yi, the head escort of Changfeng Escort Agency, looked at the strong figure standing in the courtyard and shouted angrily. Qin Yang's name and person had long been spread in Blackfish Building. Even in the assassination list of Blackfish Building, Qin Yang ranked in the top 3. As soon as he saw his appearance, Zhao Yi recognized him. But he didn't expect that Qin Yang would come to kill him like this. The third owner of your Blackfish Building came to chat with me before. It just so happens that I'm bored today, so I came to chat with you too. Qin Yang smiled. Since you like chatting so much, let Qin Yan Luo chat with you. Zhao Yi's eyebrows were cold, and he waved his hand directly. Qin Yang's posture showed that he was here to destroy the family. No matter how much he said, it would be useless. The moment he gave the order, many masters of Changfeng Escort Agency rushed towards Qin Yang. The speed and explosive power were obviously much stronger than those minions before. But Qin Yang still didn't take it seriously. He rushed forward with big strides, and the earth shook. Boom. One after another, figures were violently knocked away by Qin Yang. Seeing this, Zhao Yi still did not make a move. The second and third escort leaders beside him could not hold back, and their bodies flashed. The second escort leader used a heavy mace, and his arms were tense, smashing Qin Yang's head fiercely. The third escort leader used her swords, crouched down, and chopped the two scimitars together, attacking Qin Yang's calves. The two had obviously cooperated many times before, one attacking the head and the other attacking the feet. One up and one down, it was difficult to defend. Qin Yang sneered, and his right fist suddenly burst out with a fierce force, instantly shredding his clothes, and hitting the mace hard. Dragon Elephant Millions of Destroy Mountains. The terrifying force directly smashed the mace into a dent and deformed shape. The second escort leader's hands were shaking and bleeding, and his body retreated more than 10 meters. At this time, the third escort leader's sweeping double swords came. They chopped on Qin Yang's ankles, clanging twice. Even the Hunyuan key was not broken. Be careful. The big dart leader Zhao Yi roared wildly, and suddenly pulled out the giant sword, and chopped it out. The third dart leader also felt a terrifying crisis coming, and kicked his legs, to step back and move away. Qin Yang's left hand pressed down hard. It was like a hydraulic press crushing a tomato. Bang! The violent palm force instantly squeezed the head of the third dart leader and burst it. Qin Yang's right hand pulled out the Hanua knife at the same time, and swung the knife. Ding ding ding, he and the big dart leader quickly fought. The giant sword and the Hanua knife blasted wildly. In less than 10 moves, a layer of frost spread on the surface of the giant sword, freezing the hands of the big dart leader. Moreover, he couldn't resist Qin Yang's tyrannical strength. Brother, I'll help you. At the critical moment, the second dart leader, holding the bloody mace, rushed towards Qin Yang fiercely. Brotherly love, right? Qin Yang grinned and chopped down with a mountain falling force. The second dart leader raised the mace to block. Bang! A huge force pressed down. The second escort leader screamed. His two arms were directly broken, and his eyes were bloodshot. Qin Yang was inexhaustible, and after the Hanua knife fell, he lifted it up. Puff! The second escort leader's head flew up. The big escort leader's eyes were about to burst, and he rushed over like crazy. Qin Yang narrowed his eyes, and the Hanua knife seemed to raise black waves and cut out. Black sea devouring wave slash. Swish, 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 the big escort leader barely blocked a few blows, and the hand holding the sword was cut off by Qin Yang. Puff. The Hanyu knife pierced his heart fiercely. The gap was too huge. No matter how crazy Zhao Yi was, it was useless. When Qin Yang calmly pulled out the Hanyu knife, "I Blackfish Tower will not let you go." Zhao Yi knelt on his knees, covering his heart, looking at Qin Yang with resentment. "I won't let you, Blackfish Tower, off either." Qin Yang shook his wrist, dispersed the blood from the Hanyu knife, put it back into the scabbard, and turned to leave. Zhao Yi looked at Qin Yang's back, his head lowered. After an incensed stick of time, the government finally received the report, and a large number of Yamen runners rushed over. A police chief on duty led his men in, and when he saw the situation in the courtyard of the Changfeng escort agency, his face changed drastically. This matter is a big deal. As a police chief, he knew exactly what the Changfeng escort agency was doing. This was definitely not an ordinary vendetta, but a clash of forces. "No, I can't touch this matter, or I'll die." Thinking of this, the police chief hurriedly called a Yamen runner to return to the state government to report. The massacre of more than 100 people was indeed a shocking case in Yangning Prefecture, where the public security was relatively good. Soon, the area around the Changfeng escort agency was surrounded by ordinary people. "I heard that none of the people from Changfeng escort agency survived. Is it so tragic? Which killer came to visit them?" The people looked at Changfeng escort agency from a distance of more than 10 meters and talked about it. At this time, a cry of surprise rang out. "Zheng Yuanchao is here. This big crocodile is here too?" Everyone exclaimed. Zheng Yuanchao is a notorious villain in Yangning Prefecture. He is the chief constable of the prefecture government. He is cruel and has a long face and a protruding nose. He looks like a crocodile, so he is called the Yangning Cold Crocodile. At the same time, this Zheng Yuanchao is also the second person in the Zheng family in the city. In Yangning Prefecture, the infiltration of family power is even more severe than that of Shan County. Gongsun Liang has his own direct line of men in Shan County that can be mobilized. But the power of the governor of Yangning government is completely hollowed out and basically controlled by the major families. When Zheng Yuanchao walked into Changfeng escort agency, he frowned slightly when he saw the situation inside. He came to Zhao Yi's body kneeling on the ground and looked at it carefully. The body has frostbite on the surface, and most of the bones are broken. The right hand was cut off by a knife, and the fatal injury was the knife that pierced the heart. Zheng Yuanchao muttered to himself. Soon, a constable came in. "Captain Zheng, the people nearby have seen a suspicious person. This person is very arrogant, and he didn't even cover his face. After killing someone, he left openly." The constable said quickly. "Well, call the painter over." Zheng Yuanchao said softly. Soon, a painter hurried over, and then based on the clues provided by the people nearby, he painted a vivid portrait. When the portrait came out, Zheng Yuanchao couldn't help but exclaimed, "Why is it him?" He recognized him at a glance. This person should be Qin Yang from the patrol department. The patrol department of Blackfish Tower. Is there another fight? Zheng Yuanchao thought for a while. "Captain, do you know this person?" the constable asked in a low voice. "Well, this is someone from the patrol department. Send someone to the patrol department to ask if they did it," Zheng Yuanchao said in a deep voice. He wanted to test what the Sky Patrol meant. He sent Qin Yang to destroy a stronghold of the Blackfish House in broad daylight. Are the two sides going to go to war? For him, he was naturally happy to see it happen. Although the noble family and the Sky Patrol were not on good terms, they were not on good terms with the Blackfish House either. After all, the territory of Yangning Prefecture was so small, and no one wanted to give more to others. Yes. The constable put away the portrait and clasped his fists to accept the order. Chapter 179 Accident. After killing the Changfeng escort agency, Qin Yang swaggered back to the patrol department. "When I come out of this retreat and break through to the true gang realm, I will go and cause trouble for the Blackfish building. The third floor owner, you wait for me." For Qin Yang, the Changfeng escort agency is just a profit. He will definitely kill the third floor owner of the Blackfish building. Just after Qin Yang walked into the courtyard, he saw a woman taking care of the flowers and plants. The Ministry of Internal Affairs usually sends people to clean and manage regularly. However, Qin Yang doesn't like others to enter his room, so he just asked her to tidy up the yard casually. But Qin Yang remembered that usually a little girl came. Why did it become a woman today? You are. The woman was also a little surprised when she saw Qin Yang. Then she thought of something and whispered, "This sir, are you the new owner of this courtyard?" "Well, I have lived here for a long time. Why haven't I seen you?" Qin Yang asked casually. "I was sick before and went back to my hometown to recuperate for a while." The woman responded stiffly. "I see." Qin Yang nodded and turned to go back to the house. "Sir, how is the old man Zhang who used to live here?" The woman couldn't help asking. "Sir Zhang? I don't know who lived here before." Qin Yang shook his head. "It used to be Zhang Kangjin, Sir Zhang." The woman replied. "What? Zhang Kangjin?" Qin Yang turned around suddenly. "Sir, is there something wrong?" The woman was startled. "No, tell me." Qin Yang regained his composure and asked the woman again. After confirming again and again, Qin Yang knew that the courtyard where he lived now was previously occupied by Zhang Kangjin. The woman had returned to her hometown due to illness before, and she came back to work today, and she didn't know what happened to Zhang Kangjin. Could it be that the person who sneaked into my room that night thought that Zhang Kangjin might have left something in the room? Qin Yang was thoughtful. Yangning suburbs, villa, courtyard. A pavilion is located in the middle of the pond. Colorful koi are swimming in the green pond water. Suddenly, someone casually threw a handful of fish food into the pond. More than a dozen koi fish immediately rushed up, scrambling for the fish food, splashing light water. Qin Yang is really vindictive. He failed to be assassinated by the third floor master, and he destroyed one of our bases in a blink of an eye. The long-haired man held a ceramic jar and threw another handful of fish food. If it weren't for the spiritual master's help in secret, Qin Yang would have been dead under my hands. A man with a broken arm wearing a black fish mask said coldly. Not dead means not dead. Originally, we wanted to use Qin Yang's death to cause a conflict between the patrol and the major families in the city. Now it has become our own fault, and Qin Yang has bitten us back. The long-haired man shook his head slightly. I'll make another move. This time, I will definitely not fail again. The third floor master said in a deep voice. It's meaningless. Even if Qin Yang died, the Sky Patrol would focus on us first. In this way, it would benefit the big families in the city. The Li family can't tolerate it, so can my Blackfish Tower. The long-haired man said lightly. Just let Qin Yang be so arrogant? The third floor owner was a little dissatisfied. He had an arm cut off by Qin Yang, and he hated him in his heart. What else? Now the Dao dynasty is in decline, but there is still some foundation. Especially the old man Song Yechun. It's not that simple. In the past, he was also a well-known executioner in Dao Imperial City, killing people all over the city. It's just that, after taking office in Yangning Sky Patrol in recent years, he has been hiding, and has not shown his edge. The long-haired man said softly. The third floor owner had no choice, but to obey the arrangement. By the way, evacuate several strongholds in the city first. Anyway, these strongholds have been exposed long ago, and have no value. The long-haired man added. Strongholds like Changfeng Escort Agency are almost the strongholds that Blackfish Building puts in the open. In fact, Blackfish Building has more secret strongholds in Yangning Prefecture. For example, the mountain villa where they are now. These strongholds are the real core of Blackfish Building. The third building owner had no choice but to agree. The case of Changfeng Escort Agency was full of twists and turns, and the direction was completely unpredictable. First, Zheng Yuanchao sent people to the patrol department to inquire about the case. Leng Kang responded directly, saying that the case of Changfeng Escort Agency was the evil killing department clearing out some organizations that colluded with evil spirits, and the specific situation could not be disclosed. The Blackfish Building has even stopped its movements, and several major strongholds in the city have disappeared one after another, as if it was afraid of the patrol department. The gunfight that many forces expected did not happen. The case of Changfeng Escort Agency was hastily concluded. Li's house, hall. I didn't expect Blackfish Building to be so tolerant. Li Changhe sneered while sitting in the main seat. But why did the patrol department make trouble for Blackfish Building this time? Li Changhe sat below and asked, pretending to be ignorant. That's the point. It's a pity that after Chenna died, there was no one in our Li family who could get secret information in the Sky Patrol department. Li Changkang frowned. If it was in the past, when Li Chen was still there, he would naturally be able to get some information from within the Sky Patrol department. But now that Li Chen is dead, there are only a few people left in the Li family in the Sky Patrol department, and they can't get any secret information at all. How about sending a few more people to the Sky Patrol department? An elder said. It's useless. Since Song Yechen took office, it seems that there is no action. But he has already taken many measures against our family and sect forces in secret. The most obvious is that he only recruits some idle rangers and rarely recruits people from family and sects. Even if there is a real shortage of people, they will find some people from second-rate forces. Recently, Sky Patrol departments have been established in various counties in an attempt to solve the problem of manpower. Li Changkang said coldly. Song Yechen is a man of great strategy. Especially the move of establishing Sky Patrol departments in various counties is quite ingenious. Well, once the Sky Patrol departments in each county are successfully operating, I'm afraid Song Yechen will soon start to eliminate the family forces that are still in the Sky Patrol department. Li Changhe nodded. This is also the reason why the major forces in Yangning Prefecture are now against the Sky Patrol department. The contradictions and differences between the two sides were too huge. Song Yechen wanted to completely control the Sky Patrol department in his own hands, so he naturally had to clear out the people from the family faction. But how could the family faction let Song Yechen take all the power? Once Song Yechen completely controls the Sky Patrol department, the next step is the prefectural government. The Blackfish Tower chose to stay put because it observed this. Because the struggle between the Sky Patrol department and the family faction will definitely happen. This is not our family's business. Wait for the movements of the other families. Li Changkang narrowed his eyes. The situation in Yangning Prefecture is really undercurrents, and many forces are entangled together. Chapter 180. Mind. In the past few days, in addition to practicing, Qin Yang carefully checked his room. Since he knew that the previous owner of this room was Zhang Kangjin, he had a rough outline in his mind. The mysterious man who sneaked in that night should be the guy who secretly killed Zhang Kangjin and modified the case files to frame Liu Yun. And this person is very likely to be a member of the Zunming department. I have fought with the mysterious man before. The other party is quite powerful and should be in a high position in the Zunming department. Even if the mysterious man hides his strength, he can change the case files quietly. This person's power in the Zunming department is definitely not small. Qin Yang thought in his heart. Strength can be hidden, but through some facts, it is enough to see some of the other party's power. It's a pity that I didn't find anything unusual in the house. No one has sneaked into my house recently. It seems that even the other party thinks that Zhang Kangjin didn't put anything in this room. Qin Yang was thoughtful. After searching for a few days, even all the floor tiles were lifted. Even Qin Yang thought that there should be nothing hidden here. But what on earth did Zhang Kangjin get that led to his own death? Qin Yang was curious. But he was just a demon killer, so it was difficult for him to investigate the Zunming department. However, Qin Yang guessed that Leng Kang would not let Zhang Kangjin's death be so unclear. During his time in Yangning Zunshan division, he also felt a serious sense of division in the Zunshan division. The struggle between the direct line of the Zunshan division and the family sects was getting more and more tense. It was possible that Leng Kang would take advantage of Zhang Kangjin's death to clean up the Zunming department. Now he just had to wait slowly. Even if there was no follow-up, it would not have much impact on Qin Yang. He was just very curious about what Zhang Kangjin had hidden. After calming down his thoughts, Qin Yang took out a Yunshu pill and operated the beaming black water true art. Now his beaming black water true art has reached the 6th level, and breaking through one more level will reach the realm of Zhengang. The so-called Zhengang is the internal breath condensed to the extreme, forming a terrifying destructive force. Zenki, Ganki, and Zhengang. They are actually 3 forms of internal breath. Because the capacity of the human meridians is limited, it can only be improved by continuously compressing the true ki. The innate black water energy in Qin Yang's body is running in his body like a dark water flow. More than a month has passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Yang swallowed the last water-enriching pill and sat cross-legged on the bed. He is now like a piece of black ice, constantly emitting an extremely cold breath. Everything in the room is frozen. However, the room is well sealed, and the cold air did not spread out, flowing rapidly. The black water energy in the North Sea has undergone drastic changes. In a trance, Qin Yang felt that he appeared in an endless abyss again. Black clouds rolled, lightning and thunder roared, and waves of tsunamis rose, like a doomsday scene. One after another, terrifying figures emerged in the abyss, roaring and shaking the 9 heavens. A huge black figure lingered in the abyss. The dragon head is ferocious, the tortoise shell is deep, and the snake tail is roaring. This is not the first time Qin Yang has turned into a black tortoise. He looked at the roaring terrifying figure in the abyss, opened his mouth and roared even more violently. Roar, roar, roar. The deep dragon roar echoed in the abyss, raising huge waves of terror. The next moment, countless terrifying figures rushed towards Qin Yang. Boom. The dragon head kept colliding, the snake tail swept violently, and the giant claws kept slapping, smashing the terrifying demons one by one. A shocking battle. The waves of the abyss became more turbulent, and the dark clouds covered the sky. Almost no light could penetrate. Qin Yang didn't know how long the fight lasted. His mind became violent and deep. But this time, he didn't need to use the meditation state to stabilize his mind like last time. This time, he immersed himself in it without any resistance. It was as if he was born to be so violent and deep. Because after these days of practice, Qin Yang's perception of the mind has faintly reached a higher level. The so-called 7 emotions and 6 desires. People can have many kinds of emotions. People are people, not Buddhas. Even Buddhas can still get angry. This is even more true for people. Everyone has a violent side. This side is very scary for many people, because they feel that this is not the emotion they should have, and they will resist it in their hearts. But Qin Yang now feels that, since he already has emotions, he should not resist them, but accept them. After accepting them, he can control them freely, otherwise he will violently control his emotions. Only by doing this, Qin Yang feels that it is in line with the mystery of beaming black water true art. So many people failed in their practice before, including himself, just because they walked into a misunderstanding. So now Qin Yang enjoys the pleasure of fighting wildly in the abyss. Kill kill kill. Boom boom. Exclamation mark. Qin Yang slapped down fiercely with his claws, and a demon was instantly slapped into pieces. The terrifying power instantly caused a shocking water column to burst out of the water surface. The next moment, all the illusions in his mind disappeared. Boom. At the same time, he heard a sound like a tsunami coming from his body. Deep and cold black water flowed in his body. This is the true power. It was continuously compressed and quenched from gas, and turned into a liquid. From the flow of these black waters, Qin Yang could feel the horrible explosive destructive power. This time, in addition to breaking through to the true Gang realm, it also verifies my guess. Qin Yang muttered to himself. He knew that he was not wrong. Facing the tyranny in his heart is the only correct answer to practicing the beaming black water true art. Looking at the frost and cold air in the room, Qin Yang took a deep breath. These ice sculptures quickly turned into wisps of cold air, which madly dissipated into Qin Yang's body. This also requires extremely high control of the cold air. After the cold air in the room dissipated, Qin Yang opened the system panel. Host, Qin Yang beaming black water true art. 7th level, 1/2000. Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra. 5 levels, Yin Talisman. 16/750 Yang Talisman. 3/750, Dragon Elephant Fist, Great Success, 167/2500, Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade, Minor Success, 262/1800, Turtle Snake Art. Perfection, Extreme Cold. These days, I have been practicing beaming black water true art, and Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra has naturally made great progress, breaking through to the 5th level. Dragon Elephant Fist and Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade have not changed much. Now that I have broken through to the true Gang realm, it will take a long time to reach perfection. Let's practice Dragon Elephant Fist to perfection first. Qin Yang pondered in his heart. At present, he has practiced so many first-class martial arts, and the only martial art that is closest to perfection is Dragon Elephant Fist. He is looking forward to what kind of magical power Dragon Elephant will generate after perfection. Of course, there are more than 2000 experience points that he needs to grind, which will take a lot of time. Before that, I should go to find trouble with Blackfish Tower. Qin Yang grinned. The people in Blackfish House probably didn't expect that Qin Yang would hold a grudge to this extent. After all, Qin Yang had destroyed a Blackfish House stronghold not long ago and killed more than 100 people. In the end, in Qin Yang's eyes, this was just a little interest. Chapter 181 A Calligraphy. To find the third owner of the Blackfish building, one cannot rely on personal strength alone. Yangning's house city is so big and has so many people. It is unknown when Qin Yang will find him alone. This is when the role of the organization is reflected. When Qin Yang found Leng Kang, he was busy in the Xuxi Hall. Hearing that Qin Yang was looking for the third owner, Leng Kang seemed to have expected it and took out a small note. This is the message of the third owner. But you have to think clearly that, even if the other party has a broken hand, he is still a master of the three flowers gathering at the top. You may not be the opponent alone. Leng Kang reminded. Even if you can't kill him, the worst case scenario is to escape. He can't leave me alone. Qin Yang was fearless. But if he failed this time, the other party might be alert. It's up to you. Leng Kang nodded. As a warrior with the three flowers gathering at the top, he felt a change in Qin Yang's aura. Even though Qin Yang's beaming black water true skill was as deep as the sea and not easily revealed, Qin Yang had just broken through and there was still a trace of aura leaking out. That wisp of ki was as deep as the sea, and only the true ki could be so condensed. Then how many contribution points will I get if I kill the third floor owner? Qin Yang said with a smile. Aren't you looking for revenge? I've provided you with information for free. Leng Kang was stunned. Director Leng, if the higher-ups have no idea about the Blackfish building, why would they help me track down the whereabouts of the third floor owner? Qin Yang smiled. You are a very thoughtful kid. 800 contribution points. Do you want to do it? Leng Kang shook his head helplessly. Qin Yang guessed correctly. This was indeed what the head of the department Song Yechen meant. Maybe Song Yechen felt that one base was not enough to hit the Blackfish building, and he needed to kill another heavyweight. Although Leng Kang felt that he had to solve the internal problems of the Sky Patrol department first, he still listened to Song Yechen's words, spent a lot of effort, and cooperated with the Ming Patrol department to dig out the information of the third floor owner. Enough. Qin Yang laughed and turned to leave the Xuxi Hall. This kid has broken through to the true gang realm so quickly. In a while, he might surpass me. Such a genius can only appear in a world of great strife. This time, I don't know how chaotic the world will be. Leng Kang's eyes were complicated. The sun was setting, and the rays of light fell on the Yangning's house city, a sea of red. The streets were busy, and the shops gradually closed, slowly becoming deserted. There was a writing stall in a remote street. The stall owner was a man in his 30s, tall and thin, with an ordinary appearance. He saw that there were no pedestrians on the street, and began to pack up his stall. At this time, a figure appeared on the street. The tall body just blocked the setting sun, forming a large black shadow, covering the entire writing stall, and plunging it into darkness. The stall owner felt his vision go dark, so he looked up, and saw a tall young man walking towards his stall. Boss, are you closing the stall? The young man asked casually. Closing the stall? The stall owner nodded slightly. I have a piece of calligraphy that I need to give to someone urgently. Can you write it for me first? The young man asked seriously. The stall owner hesitated for a moment, then spread out a piece of rice paper and asked softly, what words do you want to write, sir? Just 4 words. The young man grinned and said, if you have a grudge, you must take revenge. If you have a grudge, you must take revenge. These 4 words are good. The stall owner nodded slightly and immediately waved the brush and wrote the 4 big words. If you have a grudge, you must take revenge on the rice paper. Qin Yang took a look. These 4 words were written with force through the back of the paper, and it was obvious that there was some kind of anger when writing. I will give these 4 words to you, sir. The stall owner put down the brush and said lightly. It seems that you also want to say these 4 words to me. Qin Yang smiled. The revenge of a broken arm must be avenged, the stall owner said, pinching his left arm with his right hand and pulling it gently. The whole arm was detached just like that. This left arm was surprisingly a prosthesis. Just right. Let me see how much strength you have left after a broken arm. Qin Yang smiled slightly. This stall owner is the 3rd owner of the Blackfish building. It's enough to kill you. The 3rd floor owner kicked the table. Bang. The table flew out fiercely. Qin Yang slapped his palm fiercely. Boom. The table exploded into sawdust. The next moment, a palm came like a swimming fish and was about to hit Qin Yang's chest like lightning. Qin Yang raised his elbow fiercely and pushed it out fiercely. Bang. The elbow and palm collided. The two retreated at the same time. The stone bricks under their feet were broken fiercely. Real gang. I didn't expect you to break through so quickly. The 3rd floor owner's eyes sank. Just when he collided with Qin Yang just now, he felt a cold breath coming. That level of condensation is definitely higher than Genki. You know, the last time he attacked Qin Yang, the other party was just a Genki warrior. How dare I trouble you without a breakthrough? Qin Yang said lightly. It's still not enough. The 3rd floor owner shook his head, but he looked around vigilantly. He was afraid that the sword controlling spirit master would appear again. Don't worry, I'm here alone this time. Qin Yang said indifferently. You're too arrogant to come alone. The 3rd floor owner sneered, and his right hand quickly tapped his eyebrows, heart, and anshan. 3 flowers gather at the top of the head. Open. Instantly, the 3rd floor owner's whole body swelled up, and the dark black energy wrapped around his body, turning into a black fish. His footsteps changed strangely, as if a fish was swimming in the water, and he rushed forward quickly. Qin Yang took out the dragon elephant boxing stance and closed his eyes. He had fought with the 3rd floor owner before. The opponent's blackfish boxing was very strange and changeable, which made him unable to figure out the direction of the punch, resulting in a lot of losses. This time, he closed his eyes just to prevent himself from being disturbed by his eyes. When he practiced the beaming black water true kung fu before, he realized the importance of the mind. In fact, when he realized this, the martial arts realm was actually sublimated. The mind is the best way to observe the outside world. After Qin Yang closed his eyes, he quickly felt the changes in the ki. In a trance, he seemed to sense a blackfish rushing towards him from the left. Without hesitation, he punched out with his right fist. In the 3rd floor owner's incredible eyes, Qin Yang's iron fist hit his palm fiercely. Bang. The 3rd floor owner roared, and his own vitality suddenly condensed in his palm and surged out. Qin Yang was still hit by the surging vitality and took a few steps back. The next moment, the 3rd floor owner's right hand was like a black knife, slashing at Qin Yang's face. Qin Yang dodged to the side, raised his left leg straight and kicked out. Infinite heavy whip. The air whistled and swept away. The 3rd floor owner also kicked out. His force was more like a fish flicking its tail, bursting out with surging power in an instant. Bang. The two sides kept fighting. Counterattack. Counterattack. It was extremely fierce. The whole street was filled with a terrible cold air. The floor tiles had already cracked and shattered crazily. Qin Yang's dragon elephant fist. The offensive was masculine and domineering, opening and closing. The 3rd floor owner's blackfish fist was treacherous and changeable, and emphasized instantaneous bursts. Chapter 182. Mind. This kind of intense and long-lasting battle is all about seeing who has a stronger internal energy and a more focused mind. Qin Yang has the magical power of rushing back to the sea, and his true energy recovery speed is fast. If he enters a state of meditation, his mind will not fluctuate at all. But Qin Yang did not choose to do so. Because the state of meditation is too stable, it is impossible to bring out the true charm of the dragon elephant fist. Now his every move is like a dragon and an elephant, domineering and fierce, overwhelming everything. The 3rd floor master is also not bad. His whole body of vitality is continuous and not exhausted. Even if one hand is broken, the palm method is still sharp and strange, and it cuts many cuts on Qin Yang's body. Blackfish one thought cut. The 3rd floor master found an opportunity, and his right hand was wrapped with dark vitality, and he slashed it fiercely. The so-called one thought is that the 3 flowers of spirit, energy, and spirit condense into one thought. Puff. Qin Yang felt a pain in his shoulder, and his right shoulder was directly pierced by the palm of the third floor master. Ah. Yinfu. Open. The next moment, Qin Yang's blood and energy burst out crazily, his body expanded, and the whites of his eyes disappeared, leaving only deep black. Qin Yang still did not draw his sword, and his hands struck out in succession. Boom. The whole street was shrouded in dense thunder. Blackfish, backflow vortex. The third floor owner roared wildly, and one hand turned into a vortex, trying to dissolve all of Qin Yang's attacks. Every collision, a burst of extremely cold air burst out. Unknowingly, the third floor owner's face was covered with frost. After Qin Yang opened the Yinfu, the power burst was too strong. Even the third floor owner could not bear it. After all, he lost an arm, and the disadvantage was too great. You should die. Qin Yang roared, and after hitting the thunder palm, he transformed it into the dragon elephant fist. The fist wind was fierce and violent, as if a dragon and an elephant were raging over the mountains. I die. You die with me. The third floor owner had a crazy face, and his right hand swung continuously in the void, as if he was swinging his tail continuously. Bang! When Qin Yang's fist hit his heart, the third floor owner's right hand also hit Qin Yang's neck fiercely. The two figures separated fiercely. Qin Yang flew backwards for more than 10 meters and landed heavily. His cervical vertebrae were almost broken by the third floor owner. In the end, the Hunyuan Qi offset a lot of the strength, and after the Yinfu was activated, the muscles became tighter, which offset some of it. As for the third floor owner, a bloody hole was punched in his chest, and he kept twitching on the ground. It seems that you still have to accept those words, Qin Yang said, and suddenly coughed up blood. He wiped it casually. Qin Yang, you won. You can only keep winning. One day, if you lose, cough cough cough, you will come to see me. The third floor owner smiled miserably, and as he said the last sentence, he suddenly lost his breath. Don't worry, I will always win. Qin Yang squatted down and felt around the third floor owner. This is the third floor owner of the Blackfish building, not a small fish or shrimp, so he naturally can't let him go. Soon, he took out a few silver bills and a boxing secret book. Qin Yang put it away and left quickly. After a while, a group of Yamen runners came over. Seeing the tragic situation in this remote street, everyone's face turned pale. The street tiles were broken and bumpy. A body was lying on the ground. Who is this person? I don't know him. Maybe he is an outsider. This city is getting more and more chaotic. Several Yamen runners looked at the body of the third floor owner and kept talking. This time is different from the last Changfeng escort agency. Last time, more than 100 people died, but this time only one died. It seems that it may still be a vendetta. Generally, in such cases, as long as no innocent people are harmed, the state government will basically ignore it. After a while, the head of the police on duty came to check the situation. When he saw the body of the third floor owner, he also didn't recognize who it was, so he could only let his men move the body back to the government office first. The villa outside the city. The long-haired man soon received the news of the death of the third floor owner. At that time, he was still feeding carp in the pavilion in the villa. Hearing this news, bang, the feed can filled with fish food in his hand was suddenly crushed into powder. A large amount of fish food fell into the pond, causing the carp to scramble for it. The carp pond suddenly began to ripple. Song Yechen, do you really think I dare not turn against you? The long-haired man's voice was low and suppressed. It can be seen that he has tried his best to suppress his emotions. Who did it? Qin Yang. The long-haired man asked. A masked black-robed man clasped his fists and said, according to the clues, it should be Qin Yang. He was alone. The long-haired man frowned. I don't know if the nearby residents ran away when the fight happened. The body of the third floor owner is now in the government office. The black-robed man said in a deep voice. Then quickly find a way to fish the body out. Remember, the identity of the third floor owner cannot be exposed. The long-haired man whispered. If the identity of the third floor owner is exposed, it will be a big blow to the reputation of the Blackfish building. After all, it was not Leng Kang who did it. A random Xuxi person killed the third floor owner of the Blackfish building. How will outsiders view the Blackfish building? Yes. The black-robed man clasped his fists and said goodbye. The long-haired man calmed down, looked at the carp in the water, and frowned slightly. Could it be that Song Yechen knew something? No. He should not know our movements. He noticed it. So, he wanted to know what we were doing, so he threw Qin Yang's stone into the lake to see how deep it was. The long-haired man was thoughtful. He pondered for a while and sneered, "Song Yechen, I will tolerate this. Anyway, I will settle this account with you soon." After Qin Yang killed the third floor owner, he quickly returned to the Sky Patrol Division. The last time he destroyed the Changfeng escort agency, he was rewarded with 500 contribution points. This time, killing the third floor owner of the Blackfish building is 800 contribution points. Add up to 1300 contribution points. However, Qin Yang did not go to the Linxin building first, but returned to the courtyard to recuperate. Qin Yang sat cross-legged on the boat, swallowed the healing pill, and recalled the battle with the third floor owner today. Although he was seriously injured in the battle with the third floor owner this time, he gained a lot. It can be said that this battle has completely elevated Qin Yang's understanding of martial arts to another level. Before, Qin Yang's use of martial arts belonged to the category of skills. The so-called skills are martial arts and skills. He uses the boxing and sword manuals as they are written. But now, his martial arts realm has transformed to the spiritual realm. He began to fight with his mind and artistic conception, and was no longer rigid and conservative. When Lu Shengai taught me before, I didn't really understand it. Now I finally understand it. Qin Yang said to himself. There is no doubt that today's battle will have a far-reaching impact on his future martial arts path. Because some things cannot be given by the system, you need to comprehend and understand them yourself. Qin Yang also went through many fights, and was guided by others, before he gradually comprehended his own mind, and reached this realm. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183. The Little Devil is Troublesome. The death of the third building owner did not seem to cause any waves. It was as if the breeze passed over the water, only causing slight ripples and then disappearing. The Sky Patrol Department did not specifically publicize it, and the Blackfish building just tried to find a way to retrieve the body of the third building owner from the government office. Apart from that, neither side made any other moves. The Sky Patrol Department, a quiet courtyard. I didn't expect the Blackfish building owner to hold back. Song Yechen, wearing a blue robe, was holding a delicate hoe to loosen the soil. He had a handsome face and looked middle-aged, but his beard and hair were all white, giving people a sense of old age. Len Kang stood beside Song Yechen and whispered, "Chief, why do you have to attack the Blackfish building first? The Blackfish building seems to be planning something. Let Qin Yang kill the third building owner. I just want to interrupt the Blackfish building's plan and see how the other party will react." Song Yechen squatted down and put a seed into the dug pit. But now the other party has no reaction. Len Kang frowned. This seemed to indicate that Song Yechen's test had failed. No reaction. It means my guess is right. The Blackfish building must be planning something. The old Marquis seems to be unwilling to be lonely. Song Yechen smiled lightly. Then let's focus on investigating the Blackfish building first. Len Kang thought for a while. I'll leave this matter to Ma Cheng. You take care of the affairs of the demon slaying department first. Song Yechen shook his head. Then don't touch the aristocratic family? Len Kang said puzzledly. Of course I have to move. But there is no suitable reason now. Wait a little longer and there will always be a good time. Song Yechen gently buried the seeds. In order to shake the aristocratic family, he has been planning for a long time, and naturally he will not stop. Understood. Len Kang said in a deep voice. 3 days later, Qin Yang recovered from his injuries and went to Linxin building again. This time, he first exchanged 20 Yunshu pills, which consumed 600 contribution points, leaving 700 contribution points. He planned to exchange these 700 contribution points for other pills. The way of elixirs is all-encompassing. There are elixirs that increase the speed of internal breathing cultivation, and there are also large elixirs that replenish ki in blood. Because Qin Yang plans to practice the dragon elephant fist to perfection first, Taking the large elixir that replenishes ki and blood can allow him to practice for a longer time. After a selection, he chose the tempering pill. This elixir is made by a special method with various large medicines. It has strong medicinal power and can temper the body and improve ki and blood. What Qin Yang is looking at is naturally the huge medicinal power contained in the tempering pill. Moreover, this tempering pill is not expensive. It is only 20 contribution points per pill. Qin Yang directly exchanged 30 pills. With 2 bottles of elixirs, Qin Yang went to the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Yangning Patrol Heaven Division. In addition to practicing martial arts in the square, there are also hidden and quiet indoor martial arts arenas. Practicing Dragon Elephant Fist is very noisy, which is not convenient in the square, and the yard is too small. Since Yangning Patrol Heaven Division is in the city, it cannot open up a place for cultivation in the back mountain like the Mountain and River Patrol Heaven Division. So Qin Yang can only apply to practice in the indoor martial arts arena. These martial arts arenas are uniformly allocated by the Ministry of Internal Affairs. With Qin Yang's current reputation in the Sky Patrol, it is naturally easy to apply for one. But when he arrived at the Ministry of Internal Affairs and found a deacon of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the other party was a long-faced man. He took out a book, flipped through it, and apologized. Master Qin, all the martial arts arenas this month are fully booked. If you want to apply, you can only schedule it until next month. Qin Yang frowned. Next month. He didn't have so much time to waste. Yes, if there is a vacancy, I will contact you again. The long-faced man said helplessly. Ask your supervisor to come over. Qin Yang said lightly. Master Qin, there is no need to disturb the supervisor for these trivial matters. The long-faced man shook his head. Qin Yang glanced at him and turned to leave the Ministry of Internal Affairs. After he left, a young man walked up to the long-faced man. Deacon, don't I remember there is another martial arts practice room? The long-faced man sneered. I know there is, but I just don't want to give it to Qin Yang. As he said that, he reopened the book, found the vacant martial arts practice room, and signed his name. The young man realized that he had said too much. The deacon's name was Li Xin, and he was a member of the Li family. The grievances between Qin Yang and the Li family had long been spread in the Sky Patrol department, and Li Xin used his limited power to specifically make things difficult for Qin Yang. Take the sign and hang it up in the martial arts practice room. Otherwise, Qin Yang will see it and gossip about it. Li Xin took out another wooden sign. This wooden sign was hung in front of the martial arts practice room, which meant that someone was practicing. The young man picked up the wooden sign and was about to walk out of the Ministry of Internal Affairs when he trembled all over. He saw a figure leaning against a wooden pillar casually, looking at him indifferently. The deep and cold eyes made the young man feel cold all over. Why hasn't Qin Yang left yet? I remember you, just now in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. You were also there. Where are you going in such a hurry? Qin Yang asked calmly. I'm going to do something. The young man wanted to put away the wooden sign, but Qin Yang's eyes were sharp, and his right hand stretched out directly. The young man felt a pain in his wrist, and the wooden sign fell into Qin Yang's hand. What does this wooden sign mean? Qin Yang said calmly. This. The young man looked flustered, and didn't know any answer. Tell me. I dare to kill Li Chen, so I don't care about one more of you. Qin Yang smiled. The young man was frightened by Qin Yang, and hurriedly told the whole story. Li Xin, this Li family is really full of resentment. Even such a small matter has to bother me. Qin Yang shook his head. Because of the improvement of his mind, when he was in the Ministry of Internal Affairs just now, he noticed that Li Xin had some malice towards him. So this is the reason. He picked up the wooden sign casually, carried the young man with one hand, and walked back into the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Li Xin, get out of here. Qin Yang shouted directly in front of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. In a moment, several figures appeared in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The leader was a middle-aged woman in a long skirt, the head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Mo Yunlian. She was also the second in command of the Mo family in Yangning City. When she saw Qin Yang, she frowned slightly and scolded. Qin Yang, why are you so presumptuous in the Ministry of Internal Affairs? Find Li Xin out for me. I want to confront him face to face. Why are you making things difficult for me? Qin Yang did not give the head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs any face at all. Humph. Do you think this is the Ministry of Extermination of Evils? It's not your turn to be presumptuous. Mo Yunlin was still unclear about what was going on, but she, the head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, had no face left after being yelled at by Qin Yang. Haha. I was presumptuous. What can you do to me? Qin Yang sneered. It seems that I have to teach you a lesson for Leng Kang today. Mo Yunlin shouted coldly. Her figure flashed, and her hands hit Qin Yang continuously. Her palm techniques were extremely fast, like flowers blooming in the air, making people dizzy. Chapter 184 Picking Flowers. This is the Mo family's unique skill, the flower picking palm. In addition to its variety of variations, the palm shadows it forms can also affect the mind. When practiced to a high level, it can even make the enemy feel dizzy. Mo Yunlin has practiced for so many years, and the flower picking palm has long reached the state of perfection. Once used, it will form an illusory scene of countless flowers blooming, which makes Qin Yang's mind shake. Bang! Mo Yunlin hit Qin Yang's chest hard with the palm. She felt like she was hitting a layer of cold and tough air shield. Hard Kigen? Mo Yunlin didn't expect Qin Yang's body protecting Kigen to be so tough that even her palm couldn't break it. A burst of extremely cold air suddenly burst out. The palm power is too weak. Qin Yang's big hand slapped Mo Yunlin. Hover palm pierced through Mo Yunlin's face. Illusion? Exclamation mark. Qin Yang was stunned. Then, Mo Yunlin appeared behind Qin Yang and hit the flower picking palm again. Bang! Qin Yang was hit by a huge force and could not help but stagger forward a few steps. Is it an illusion? Qin Yang knew that he must have been confused by Mo Yunlin's palm method. He closed his eyes and wanted to use the third floor master's move to deal with Mo Yunlin. The eyes can be blinded, but the mind cannot. After he closed his eyes, his left shoulder was hit hard again. He did not feel anything, nor did he make any reaction. He looked like a dull wooden man, very clumsy. Qin Yang was beaten back a few steps again. He roared wildly, and the surging blood and ki seemed to overflow from his body. The beaming black water true skill was running at a high speed. The Hunyuan ki quickly turned into a black armored evil dragon, wrapping around his body. Bang bang! Qin Yang was beaten by Mo Yunlin without the power to fight back. He could not judge the opponent's attack trajectory at all, and could only stand still and take the beating. The scene looked miserable. Yes, that's it. Beat Qin Yang hard to death. Li Xin hid in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, looking at the battle outside the hall. His expression was excited, and he was almost shouting. He didn't expect that. He just wanted to disgust Qin Yang, but he didn't expect it to turn out like this. But looking at it this way, it seems that everything is going well. Qin Yang underestimated the horror of the flower picking palm, which is even more bizarre than the blackfish palm. The blackfish palm is changeable, and the attack trajectory is difficult to figure out, but the attack will also generate airflow. The flower picking palm is silent, and does not generate any airflow. Even if Qin Yang closes his eyes and is not affected by the flower picking palm, he cannot judge the opponent's attack rules. However, the flower picking palm also has a fatal weakness. The palm power is a bit weak. Qin Yang has a hard Qigong, and his body has been tempered by the Yang Fu, making it tough and strong. Even though he was hit by Mo Yunlin like a sandbag for more than a dozen palms, he was still fine. So comfortable. You people from the Ministry of Internal Affairs are quite good at massage. Obviously he was passively beaten, but Qin Yang didn't feel any pain at all, and even laughed strangely. Mo Yunlin also felt that Qin Yang was difficult to deal with. The weakness of the flower picking palm is indeed that the palm power is too weak. But according to reason, Qin Yang is just a real gang warrior. Weak palm power is relative. It should not be a problem to crush a real power warrior. But after she hit him more than a dozen times, she found that the protective gas shield on Qin Yang's body was even stronger than the protective gas of some master warriors. Even if she hit him, she would be infected by an extremely cold breath. Of course, her own vitality would eliminate this coldness. But the long-term attack still made Mo Yunlin anxious. Qin Yang still closed his eyes. He no longer felt a flow of air. Instead, he used his heart to feel some emotions. He thought of the evil thoughts he had sensed from Li Xin just now. So, he could also sense Mo Yunlin's malice. Of course, Mo Yunlin hid much deeper than Li Xin. But when she couldn't attack for a long time, she couldn't suppress her impetuousness in her heart, and finally let Qin Yang sense that malice. Seeing that many attacks didn't work, Mo Yunlin quietly appeared beside Qin Yang and hit him hard on the temple. In this palm, she burst out all her palm power, and the temple itself is one of the weaknesses of the human body, which should be enough to end a battle. But this time, Qin Yang, who had been silent, finally moved. He suddenly raised his right hand and smashed his elbow hard. It hit Mo Yunlin's forearm. With a bang, Mo Yunlin felt a pain in her forearm, and her body was suddenly blasted away by a deep and huge force. Oops. Mo Yunlin's face changed, and she exerted force on her feet, releasing the huge force on her body into the ground. Bang! The floor tiles cracked and exploded. Qin Yang was waiting for Mo Yunlin's rhythm to be disrupted. He suddenly turned into black light and rushed out, punching with two big hands continuously. Mo Yunlin quickly adjusted her internal breath and vitality, and quickly hit with both palms. Bang bang bang. After 7 or 8 consecutive punches, Qin Yang hit Mo Yunlin's lower abdomen with a million mountain destroying punches. This punch burst out with a violent sound wave. Mo Yunlin crossed her hands and blocked downwards. At the same time, Qin Yang's left hand suddenly whipped like a whip. Infinite heavy whip. Hit Mo Yunlin's arm hard. Bang, the protective key was shattered by the heavy whip, and the whole arm was bent strangely. You like to give me a massage? I'll give you one too. Qin Yang grinned and kicked Mo Yunlin in the lower abdomen. Bang. The opponent flew back into the Ministry of Internal Affairs like a cannonball. Except for the flower picking palm, Mo Yunlin gave Qin Yang the feeling that she was far inferior to the third floor owner. Whether it was fighting experience or the degree of her own vitality, Mo Yunlin was too poor. She was able to practice to the master level, probably because of her family background and a large number of elixirs. This time, everyone in the Ministry of Internal Affairs was shocked. A demon killer was beaten by the head of their Ministry of Internal Affairs. You know, even if the Ministry of Internal Affairs itself is not good at fighting, Mo Yunlin is a master warrior with 3 flowers gathered at the top of the head. Even she was kicked away by Qin Yang. For a while, everyone in the Ministry of Internal Affairs looked at Qin Yang with fear. Li Xin, get out. Qin Yang said coldly. He had not forgotten why he came to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Li Xin was in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, looking at Mo Yunlin twitching on the ground, shaking with fear, and hearing Qin Yang's voice made him feel even more scared. He was naturally full of regret at this moment. It's over, Qin Yang will definitely destroy me. Maybe he won't even survive. What should I do? Li Xin looked panicked. Fortunately, at this time, he heard another voice. Qin Yang, you made a big fuss in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and you also violated your superiors and injured Director Mo. It's really lawless. A sinister voice sounded. Li Xin could tell that the voice was from the director of the military prison department, Wu Qian. Outside the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Qin Yang turned around and saw Wu Qian, who was coming with great momentum and dozens of armored soldiers behind him, with a calm expression. Wu Qian, you also want to fight with me? Qin Yang grinned. Qin Yang, don't think that you are invincible just because you beat Mo Yunlin. You are too young. Wu Qian sneered. He was also well aware of Mo Yunlin's strength. She could be said to be the weakest warrior with 3 flowers gathered at the top of the head. Although it was surprising that Qin Yang was able to injure her, it did not make Wu Qian very afraid. Chapter 185 Gathering. Why do you care so much? Do you want to fight me? Qin Yang snorted coldly. I'm not afraid of you. Wu Qian had long disliked Qin Yang. Today, he finally got a legitimate opportunity and was about to take action against him. Wu Qian, we are from the demon slaying department. Why is it your turn to bully us? Still want to bully the weak? Have you asked me, the head of the demon slaying department? A long roar. Len Kang's burly figure suddenly appeared in the field, and his black and white hair was blown by the airwaves. Wu Qian frowned slightly. Len Kang still made him very afraid. He said in a deep voice, Len Kang, Qin Yang not only violated his superiors and injured Director Mo, but also violated the rules of the patrol department, that he could not take action privately. As the head of the military prison department, I will naturally arrest him for interrogation. He didn't want to use force with Leng Kang, so he could only use the rules of the patrol department to put pressure on him. Qin Yang, what's going on? Leng Kang looked at Qin Yang. He rushed to the Ministry of Internal Affairs as soon as he heard the news, and he really didn't know the specific situation. That's just right. It was Mo Yunlin who attacked me first. It's just that she was too weak and was knocked out by my punch. Manager Wu, if you want to arrest someone, you should arrest Mo Yunlin. Qin Yang shrugged. So it was Mo Yunlin who attacked first. That's what she deserves. Leng Kang nodded. Humph, this matter is not yours alone. Come with me to the military prison department to investigate it first. Wu Kai didn't want to listen to Qin Yang and wanted to take Qin Yang away. It's too troublesome to go to the military prison department. Let's go directly to the chief of the department and let him judge it. Leng Kang smiled. These things. There's no need to excite the old man, the chief of the department. A cold voice sounded. Qin Yang looked over and saw another person coming. This man was about 40 years old, with a strong body, bronze skin, and no hair on his head, like a monk. Meet Deputy Chief Shen. Wu Kai saw this person and hurriedly clasped his fists. Qin Yang was thoughtful. He had been in Yangning Patrol for so long, and he knew some names. Shen Sangxiu, one of the 2 deputy chiefs of Yangning Patrol, was also the patriarch of the Shen family in the city, and a lay disciple of the Temple of Questioning the Heart. With these identities, people could really feel his power. The military prison department, including the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and others also saluted him. Deputy Chief Shen, you said you don't want to see the chief, so don't see the chief. Are you more powerful than the chief? Leng Kang was not afraid of Shen Sangxiu and asked calmly. Shen Sangxiu narrowed his eyes. Leng Kang, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm not talking nonsense. I will definitely report this matter today to the chief. Why did Deputy Chief Shen stop it? Is it related to you? Leng Kang smiled. Wu Kai, take Qin Yang down. Shen Sangxiu didn't want to waste any more words. With him staring at Leng Kang, the other party couldn't make a move. Qin Yang licked his lips and looked at Wu Kai provocatively. You think you can take me down with this stinky fish? You're looking for death. Wu Kai was furious and was about to attack. Why is the Ministry of Internal Affairs so lively today? What good thing happened? An old voice came, and the anger in Wu Kai's heart was instantly extinguished. Everyone turned around. A white-haired man walked in with his hands behind his back. The man's voice was old, his hair and beard were all white, but his face seemed to be in his 40s. Meeting Chief Song. Everyone saluted with a fist. Qin Yang also saluted. This was also the first time he saw Song Yechen. Chief Song, Qin Yang of the Demon Slaying Department injured Mo Yunlin, the head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and I was about to take him back to the military prison department for investigation. Unexpectedly, Leng Kang blocked it, which led to the current situation. Wu Kai said first. Really? Song Yechen did not comment and looked towards the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Mo Yunlin, come out and talk. Although Mo Yunlin was kicked hard by Qin Yang, she was still a master of the 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head and could have taken action long ago. She didn't show up because she felt embarrassed. After all, it was not right to be kicked away by an evil killer. But now that Song Yechen called her, Mo Yunlin knew she couldn't hide, so she could only walk out of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. You lost to Qin Yang? Song Yechen asked lightly. This is. Mo Yunlin didn't know how to explain. She wanted to quibble, but so many people in the Ministry of Internal Affairs saw it just now, so it was useless to quibble. She was defeated by Qin Yang openly and squarely. Okay, I understand. Song Yechen shook his head. As a supervisor, you can't even deal with a demon killer. I think you shouldn't do this position anymore. Go back to the Mo family to recuperate first, and let someone else take your position. Mo Yunlin looked panicked. She didn't expect Song Yechen to take the opportunity to take her position as supervisor. She hurriedly cast a look for help to Shen Sangxiu, head of the department. The Ministry of Internal Affairs doesn't usually participate in battles, so it doesn't matter if it's weaker. Besides, Yunlin has been the head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs for so many years and is familiar with the situation. If someone else comes, it may cause some internal affairs of the patrol department to be in chaos. Shen Sangxiu persuaded. The Shen family and the Mo family are very close and have a close relationship. What's more, if Mo Yunlin is taken over by Song Yejun as the supervisor, the strength of the family and the patrol department will be weakened. Mo Yunlin sent me an account book in Machin today. Do you want to see it? Song Yejun slowly took out an account book from his sleeve and asked with a smile. For a moment, Mo Yunlin looked panicked. As the head of the Internal Affairs Department, she did embezzle a lot of money, but she handled it very cleanly every time. How could she be discovered? But looking at the account book in Song Yejun's hand, Mo Yunlin was still afraid. Secretary, I'm willing to go back to the Mo family to recuperate. That's good. Song Yejun put the account book away and then looked at Shen Sangxiu. Deputy Secretary Shen. Mo Yunlin agreed herself. Do you have any objections? Shen Sangxiu naturally cursed Mo Yunlin for being stupid at this moment and was caught by Song Yejun. Now, he had nothing to say. Secretary, how should Qin Yang be dealt with? Shen Sangxiu had no choice but to bring the topic back. I said it. It was Mo Yunlin who took action first. It's none of my business. Qin Yang sneered. Mo Yunlin was really the first to take action? Song Yejun asked. That was because Qin Yang came to my Internal Affairs Department to provoke me for no reason, so I took action. Mo Yunlin gritted her teeth. Today, she not only lost face, but also lost her position as the head of the Internal Affairs Department. This time, it was naturally because of Qin Yang, who hated him to the core. Qin Yang, why did you come to the Internal Affairs Department to provoke? Song Yejun asked again. You have to ask the Internal Affairs Department about all this. I just came to apply for a martial arts training room. That Li Xin made things difficult for me and teased me. He didn't give me a vacancy, even though there was one. I can't swallow this. Qin Yang said lightly. As he spoke, he pointed to the young man in the Internal Affairs Department. This person is the witness. Mo Yunlin, do you know about this? Song Yejun asked. I don't know. Mo Yunlin frowned. Interesting. It seems that the Internal Affairs Department really needs to be reorganized. For personal grudges, anything disgusting can be done. Song Yejun shook his head in disappointment. Chapter 186. Strong. Li Xin never thought of it. He just played a little trick to disgust Qin Yang. But he didn't expect it to develop like this. The heads of the Military Prison Department, the Demon Punishment Department, and the Internal Affairs Department all showed up. The head of the Internal Affairs Department was beaten by Qin Yang so badly that he couldn't even keep his position. In addition, even the deputy chief and the chief, who were rarely seen on weekdays, showed up one by one. Even though Li Xin had worked in the Sky Patrol Department for more than 10 years, he had never seen such a scene. When he trembled and appeared in front of Song Yejun, he was so scared that he couldn't say anything when he saw the other's eyes. This was a kind of mental shock. Even though Li Xin had thought of many excuses just now, when he saw Song Yejun's eyes, his mind went blank and all the excuses were forgotten clearly. After listening to it, Shen Sangxiu knew that something was wrong and said directly, Chief, this Li Xin is really hateful. I suggest that he be dismissed directly. That's it. But this matter will not stop. The problems of the Internal Affairs Department still need to be rectified. Song Yejun did not say anything final. After saying that, he left in a huff. Len Kang followed Song Yejun away. Shen Sangxiu was helpless, but he couldn't say much. Who let Song Yejun catch so many handles? He and Wu Kan also took people away. Li Xin knelt on the ground with a deathly pale face. When Qin Yang left, he didn't even look at him. Later, he didn't say anything, because he also felt something was wrong. This seems to be a trivial matter, but in fact it is a competition between two forces. It seems that Song Yejun won this time. So well prepared, it seems that he is just waiting for a certain opportunity. It just happened that I went to the Ministry of Internal Affairs to find trouble. Qin Yang came back to his senses. However, he is also a direct descendant of the Patrol Sky Division, and he is still happy to see this situation today. Not long after he returned to the house, someone sent a token of martial arts practice room. The next day, Qin Yang went to the martial arts practice room to practice the Dragon Elephant Fist, and no longer paid attention to the affairs of the Patrol Sky Division. During his retreat, the Ministry of Internal Affairs underwent tremendous changes. With Mo Yunlin taken down, the supervisor was replaced by Song Yechen's direct lineage, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs was soon cleaned up. A large number of people from aristocratic families were cleared out. It must be said that people from aristocratic families really couldn't resist the investigation. Because the Ministry of Internal Affairs is in charge of the finances of the Sky Patrol Department, and the money spent on managing such a huge Sky Patrol Department can be imagined. People from the Ministry of Internal Affairs can easily embezzle tens of thousands of taels. It is said that Song Yechen was so angry when he saw the list that his face turned green, and he went to the Ministry of Internal Affairs to vent his anger. Yangningsao City, Shen's Hall, Shen Sangxiu, Zheng Yuanchao, Wukan, Mo Yunlin, the 9 major families in the city gathered together, and it was very lively. According to Song Yechen's posture, now that the Ministry of Internal Affairs has been cleaned up, it is probably our turn for the military prison department. Wukan said in a deep voice. Recently, he has been walking on thin ice in the Sky Patrol Department, fearing that Song Yechen will come to his door. Have you cleaned up the accounts of your military prison department? Mo Yunlin said lightly. The corruption in the military prison department is no less than that in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Don't worry, we have always handled it very cleanly. Wukan sneered. Okay. Don't start an internal conflict at this time. Think about how to deal with Song Yechen. An old woman spoke. This old woman's name is Towning, the head of the Tao family, and also another deputy head of the patrol department. This matter is simple. We are not clean. Could it be that the people under him, Song Yechen, are all clean? We can't get anyone in the evil slaying department, and the Zuanling department is a group of weirdos, so don't bother. Then start with the patrol department. Shen Sangxia held a string of Buddhist beads in his hand, and kept turning it. The patrol department is very complicated. There are both direct descendants of the patrol department and people from aristocratic families. Then start with Ma Cheng. This man is not like Leng Kang. He is greedy for money and lustful, and I have a lot of handles on him. Mo Yunlin said softly. It's still useful to keep Ma Cheng. Wukan, find a chance to ask Ma Cheng out. Let's have a good chat with him. Towning's eyes flickered. That's fine. Shen Sangxiu understood what Towning meant. But in this case, we don't take any action, which makes us look too weak. Mo Yunlin was unwilling to accept it. The news that she was defeated by Qin Yang spread throughout the Xianzhen division. In fact, she wanted to point the finger at Qin Yang. No hurry, contact Ma Cheng first. Towning understood Mo Yunlin's thoughts and shook his head gently. Li Changkang sat in the corner, and even though Mo Yunlin gave him a look, he still didn't say a word. Seeing this, Mo Yunlin had no choice but to agree. Wait until the discussion was over. Mo Yunlin quietly found Li Changhai. Master Li, why didn't you speak for me just now? Your son Li Chen was killed by Qin Yang. Mo Yunlin frowned. Li Changkang sneered. Don't you understand? The 9 families sound like they are of the same blood, but in reality, they each have their own interests. If you want revenge, you can only rely on yourself. Li Changkang said, no longer paying attention to this stupid woman, and turned away. More than half a month passed quietly. Boom! Exclamation mark. Deep in the Sky Patrol division, in a martial arts training room, there was a constant stream of terrifying fist winds. Qin Yang was shirtless, his muscles were tough and strong, and his densely packed dark blue blood vessels were twisted like a dragon. Bang! Exclamation mark. He seemed to have turned into a dragon elephant, trampling the earth, destroying the mountains, and terrifying all the beasts. Dragon Elephant Secret, Wild Dance. As the last move of the Dragon Elephant Fist was performed, Qin Yang vaguely saw a mad dragon elephant rushing in the herd. His heart was throbbing, imitating the madness of the dragon elephant, and punching wildly with both fists. Boom! Exclamation mark. A series of explosions. Finally, Qin Yang punched an Iron Man in the martial arts training room. This Iron Man is made of pure iron, and is extremely hard. Bang! He was punched through the chest. Finally, it's perfected. Qin Yang was sweating profusely, and his hair was soaked. These days, he has been taking body hardening pills to practice the Dragon Elephant Fist every day to replenish his ki and blood without any rest. Host, Qin Yang Beaming Blackwater True Skill, 7th level, 321 over 2000. Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra, 5 levels, Yin Talisman. 56 over 750 Yang Talisman. 53 over 750, Dragon Elephant Fist, perfect, unparalleled in strength, Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade, minor success, 262 over 1800, Turtle Snake Art, perfect, extreme cold, with the perfection of the Dragon Elephant Fist, the magical power was born. This magical power looks very fierce. Qin Yang put his mind on the unparalleled strength. Unparalleled strength, strong courage, once the unparalleled divine power is activated, immune to control, crushing all enemies. As this magical power was formed, Qin Yang felt that his body and blood were changing dramatically. The density of his muscles and bones became tighter and tighter, and his internal organs and tendons became tougher. In addition to transforming the body, it seems to be similar to the Yin Fu, which can instantly burst out divine power. Qin Yang slowly realized the true meaning of being unparalleled in strength. Chapter 187 Relics. Qin Yang stayed in the training chamber for 2 more days, waiting for the magical power of Gang Meng Wu Chao to completely transform his body, and then he ended his retreat. As soon as he came out, Len Kang called him out. You came out of retreat at the right time. There is a mission for you to do. Len Kang said softly. What mission? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. The day before yesterday, a hunter accidentally discovered a cave between the Jiuqi mountains. After he entered the cave, he found it deep and unfathomable, so he explored it deeply. As a result, he really discovered a huge underground ancient city ruins. This news quickly spread to nearby villages, and then spread rapidly. Now several major sects and aristocratic families in Yangning Prefecture have sent people to check the situation. I want you to go and see it too. Len Kang introduced the mission. How could this ancient city ruins cause so many forces to shake? Qin Yang was a little surprised. Generally, ruins are at most unearthed antiques, or some gold, silver and jewelry. But these things should not be attractive to aristocratic sects. After all, these forces are not short of money, so why bother? According to the current news, this ancient city ruins is related to Dacian Kingdom, which is why so many forces are interested. Len Kang said in a deep voice. The first dynasty after the mythical era of Dacian Kingdom? Qin Yang exclaimed. He had seen the records of Dacian Kingdom in the book Ghost Weapon Collection. Whether the mythical era existed has always been controversial. But Dacian Kingdom really existed in history and has a lot of records. It is also the dynasty closest to the mythical era. Many people think that if you want to prove that the mythical era really existed, you must start with Dacian Kingdom. However, this dynasty is too old, and there are too few things that can be preserved, so it is basically invisible in the market. It's different for the ruins of Dacian Kingdom. It's related to the secrets of the mythical era. Otherwise, these sects and families would also gather there like crazy. Len Kang said softly. Then you also want me to join in the fun? Qin Yang asked. For such a big thing, we have to send someone from the Sky Patrol Department. There is no contribution value for this mission. It depends on what you bring back from the ancient city ruins. The contribution value will be calculated after the value is estimated. Of course, you don't have to go. I'll arrange for someone else to go. Len Kang didn't force Qin Yang to go. I also want to see the ancient city ruins of the Dacian Kingdom. Qin Yang smiled. That's fine. The Jiuqi mountains are not close to Yangning Prefecture City. Try to go there as early as possible. Remember to keep a low profile on the road. You know that many people are watching you. Len Kang instructed. Then I'll go back and pack my things first. Qin Yang nodded. After returning to the courtyard, he carried the Hanua knife, packed a few bottles of elixirs and clothes, and after disguising himself, he headed towards the Jiuqi mountains. When he walked out of the Sky Patrol Department, he directly used the floating light and shadow, turned into a black shadow and quickly disappeared at the street corner. As his explosive power increased, the speed at which this magical power burst out became more and more terrifying. The scouts didn't react, they only saw a black shadow passing by. After leaving the city, Qin Yang went straight to the Jiuqi mountains. Even though he practiced the Fei Iron Step all the way and didn't rest, it still took Qin Yang 2 days to get there. This mountain range is winding like a ditch, with many dangerous peaks. Among them, there are 9 mountain ranges that are unique and beautiful, so they are called Geoki peaks. In the past, there would be many literati and scholars, young men and women who went here specifically to travel. However, these days, the literati and scholars are nowhere to be seen, but there are many people in the world with swords and hats on their waists. Qin Yang only knew that the ruins of the ancient city were in Geoki Mountain, but he didn't know where it was exactly. However, at the foot of the mountain, he found that the nearby villagers had set up a tea shop for the passing rangers to rest and drink water. Qin Yang went to ask about the tea shop. The owner of the tea shop happened to know the location, so he gave Qin Yang some pointers. After leaving a piece of silver, Qin Yang went in the direction pointed by the boss. Soon, he went deep into the Geoki Mountains and came to a deep forest. Just as he passed through the woods, a large net covered with spikes suddenly fell from the sky and covered Qin Yang fiercely. Qin Yang stepped back and dodged it. Huh, so quick reaction? A cold voice sounded. Shoot. Swish, swish, swish. The next moment, several arrows shot at Qin Yang from all directions. There were arrows on the top of his head and on both sides. Qin Yang moved slightly and seemed to dodge all the arrows. He kicked the big tree in front of him fiercely. Bang! The big tree was kicked by Qin Yang and fell backwards. A figure was forced to jump up. At the same time, Qin Yang also jumped up and appeared in front of the man, smiling slightly. Not good. The next moment, the man's dead soul brain was cut off by the cold abyss knife and flew away. The people in the woods were terrified when they saw their boss being killed and were about to flee. Qin Yang didn't want to let these robbers go, so he suddenly fell and rushed towards one of them. Puff! A cold light flashed, and another head flew up. A few breaths later, the deep forest was full of blood. Why rob me when you can rob anyone else? Remember to keep your eyes open next time. Qin Yang put away the Haniuan knife. Where there are many people, naturally there will be people with bad intentions. These rangers seemed so skilled, and it is estimated that they have killed and robbed a lot in the past few days, so Qin Yang would be so cruel. Now, killing a few people is a common thing for him, as if nothing happened, and he continued to go deeper. Half an hour later, Qin Yang finally came to a valley. Many tents of different colors were set up in this valley. Occasionally, you can see people lying on the branches of a big tree to rest. Many warriors gathered together in a scattered manner, either talking in a low voice or cultivating their minds. I heard that the people from the Lishu sword sect seemed to have found something yesterday. What did they find? I don't know. I heard it from Liao Wang. Liao Wang is always unreliable, but I met the monks from the Wengxin temple yesterday, and they seemed to have found nothing. It's strange that such a complete ancient city ruins can't find anything useful. Nonsense. This ancient city ruins is huge, and many places have not been discovered yet. I have been looking for 2 days and 2 nights. I will take a rest before going down. Qin Yang listened quietly to the conversations of some warriors and got a lot of information. Although a few days have passed, no heavy weapons should have been found yet. It seems that I'm not too late. Let's go into the ancient city ruins first. Qin Yang looked into the depths of the valley. He could vaguely see a black hole. Chapter 188 Encounter. This black hole should be the entrance to the ancient city ruins. Qin Yang was disguised, and no one recognized him in the valley. So when he walked towards the cave, no one cared, thinking he was just an ordinary wanderer. After entering this cave, there was a very narrow dark passage. After walking along the dark passage for an incense stick of time, Qin Yang came to a spacious and humid cave. In the middle of the cave, there was a collapsed black hole. Are the ancient city ruins down there? Qin Yang looked down curiously, but because it was too dark, he couldn't see anything. Fortunately, he was well prepared. He took out a fire starter from his waist and blew it. The firelight slightly illuminated the bottom. Qin Yang could only see a pile of rubble below. He jumped down very boldly. Bang! When he landed, he was stunned. He saw the outline of a magnificent and dark city in front of him. The shadows of the densely packed buildings were endless, as if they were guarding the darkness. In the distance, Qin Yang also saw some fire. Someone should be exploring the ruins of the ancient city. Qin Yang stepped into the ruins with a surprised look. The ruins of this ancient city are so well preserved. It seems that they are sleeping underground. Most of the buildings have not experienced any damage, but they have a strong smell of decay. Holding a fire stick, he walked in the ruins of the ancient city. It was too dark here. The only light was the fire stick. The dark buildings around stood quietly, quiet and gloomy. It seemed to have become a silent ghost town. Unknowingly, Qin Yang walked to an open space. There is a 5-story building here. This building is made of stone bricks. On the surface, it looks like a 3-story pagoda. After so many years, it seems that there is no damage. Qin Yang seemed to be attracted by it and walked into the pagoda immediately. When the candlelight of the fire stick shone in the pagoda, Qin Yang's expression couldn't help but tighten. Spirit tablets were placed in the pagoda, densely packed and covered with dust. He couldn't read the words of the Dacian kingdom, nor did he understand what these spirit tablets said. Just standing here would give one a feeling of being stared at by countless resentful spirits, and then a fear of falling into death. Is this place specifically used to worship spirit tablets? Qin Yang walked around. Although the yin energy here is strong, there is no strange situation. Qin Yang walked up the stairs. The second floor is the same. The third floor and the fourth floor are filled with densely packed spirit tablets. When Qin Yang walked to the fifth floor, which is the highest point, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. Who? Qin Yang shouted. Don't do it. It's me. The black shadow turned around and showed a smile. Zhao Zinmo? Why are you here? Qin Yang looked at the black shadow in surprise. I was going to ask you. You scared me, but fortunately I recognized your voice. Zhao Zinmo was also in shock. I heard that there are ruins of an ancient city here, so I came to take a look. Qin Yang said casually. I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. Zhao Zinmo smiled. How long have you been here? Qin Yang asked. It's been 2 days. But we still haven't found anything. Zhao Zinmo shook his head. Even you can't find anything useful? Qin Yang was surprised. He had seen Zhao Zinmo's ability. If he didn't find anything, it would be difficult for him. No. This place looks complete, but there is nothing preserved. It's as if someone deliberately destroyed it. In addition to the long history, this is also a very important reason why there are so few things in Dacian. Many times, when we excavate some relics of Dacian, we can't find anything. Zhao Zinmo sighed. There is such a thing. Qin Yang looked surprised. Yeah. But this also explains it. This ancient city ruins are indeed left by Dacian. Whether it is some architectural styles or texts, they are all unique to Dacian. Zhao Zinmo nodded. Then what is this tower? Qin Yang asked curiously. This Zhao Zinmo is indeed knowledgeable, and he knows all these things about Dacian. This tower is also a reincarnation tower unique to Dacian. The people of Dacian believe that the reincarnation tower is connected to hell. Only when the spirit is buried in the reincarnation tower can there be a next life. Zhao Zinmo said softly. No wonder there are so many tablets in the reincarnation tower. But the owners of these spirits should have reincarnated long ago. Qin Yang said lightly. Then I don't know. After all, I have never died, and I don't know what it looks like down there. Zhao Zinmo shrugged. Okay. Qin Yang shook his head helplessly. Qin Yang, how about we work together? Zhao Zinmo invited. Is there any danger here? Qin Yang asked curiously. Even if there are no evil spirits, people are very dangerous. Zhao Zinmo shook his head. Okay. Anyway, you should be better than me at finding things. Qin Yang nodded. Then I just found a good place. Zhao Zinmo laughed. What place? Qin Yang said proudly. Come here. Zhao Zinmo said. Qin Yang walked to Zhao Zinmo's position and found a small hole here. He looked out of the small hole, and it was still pitch black. What do you mean? Qin Yang frowned and asked. The Samsara Tower has a very special status in the Great Qin Kingdom, and every place is very rigorous. So I feel that this small hole is not redundant, so I will shoot a beam of light from this small hole later. You help me watch outside and see where the light is shooting. Zhao Zinmo said softly. Leave it to me. Qin Yang nodded. Although Zhao Zinmo's idea sounded like a chance, but it wouldn't waste much time, so Qin Yang naturally wouldn't refuse. He quickly got off the Samsara Tower, came to the direction of the small hole, and jumped onto the eaves of a dark building. After a few breaths, Qin Yang saw a golden light shooting out from the Samsara Tower and landing in a building in the distance. It seems to be some kind of special guidance. Qin Yang thought for a while. After a while, Zhao Xinmo came down from the Samsara Tower. How is it? Did you see it clearly? Zhao Xinmo asked expectantly. I can see it clearly. Come with me, Qin Yang said softly. Although the golden light only lasted for a moment, he still remembered it firmly in his mind. Because he was not familiar with the terrain here, Qin Yang went a long way and passed through many buildings in the city before he finally found that building. If there was no golden light to guide him, it would be difficult to find this place. This should be a Taoist temple. Qin Yang held up a fire stick and could vaguely see that the outline of this building was a little different from other places. It should be, but this Taoist temple seems a little strange. Zhao Xinmo frowned. The Great Khan Kingdom is so far away, it's normal to be a little different, Qin Yang said lightly. At this time, another team came from a distance. Just now I saw a golden light falling nearby. Who knows if there will be any treasures. Chapter 189 Taoist Temple. As they were talking, a team of 6 people holding torches walked out of the dark street. These people were wearing long white clothes with red patterns embroidered on them. People from SYNOPSIS sect. Zhao Xinmo whispered. It was obvious that he had attracted the attention of others when the Samsara Tower emitted golden light just now. It's okay. Qin Yang's eyes were calm. The people from SYNOPSIS sect also saw Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo at this time. The leader was a young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and he was very handsome. I'm Zhao Fan from SYNOPSIS sect. Hello, both of you. The young man smiled and clasped his fists. Zhao Xinmo. Song Lingzi. The young man looked at Qin Yang with some doubt. The young man was tall and carried a big knife on his back. He didn't look like a Taoist priest at all. But he didn't ask too much, so he nodded gently. Then I won't bother you two. With that, Zhao Fan led the people into the mysterious Taoist temple. When did you get a Taoist name? Zhao Xinmo smiled. I always had it, but you just didn't know it, Qin Yang said with a smile. Okay, senior brother Song Lingzi. Zhao Xinmo laughed and said, this Zhao Fan is not simple. He is the senior brother of SYNOPSIS sect. He is also a leader among the younger generation in Yangning County. He can't do it, but the man behind him is okay, Qin Yang said lightly. Zhao Fan is just a real martial artist. For him, it's just a matter of a few moves. But there was a middle-aged man following Zhao Fan's team, which made him a little afraid. That should be the elder of SYNOPSIS sect, ensuring the safety of Zhao Fan and others. Zhao Xinmo nodded gently. After all, Zhao Fan is the future leader of SYNOPSIS sect, and no accidents can happen. Qin Yang did not discuss this issue anymore. He raised his head and looked at the entrance of the Taoist temple. Is there no plaque? No. It may have been taken down a long time ago. Zhao Xinmo said helplessly. Go in and take a look first, Qin Yang said softly. The two walked into the Taoist temple. There was a small square at the entrance. There was a main hall in front and 2 side halls. Qin Yang looked and found that Zhao Fan and others had disappeared. He and Zhao Xinmo went to the main hall first. The main hall was naturally pitch black. He could not see anything with his eyes blind. Zhao Xinmo casually threw out a talisman. Puff! The talisman exploded gently in the air, illuminating the main hall like a flare. The main hall was empty. Not to mention the statues. There was not even a cushion. It seems there is nothing here. Maybe at that time, the Samsara Tower was managed and protected by this Taoist temple, so the hole was located here. Zhao Xinmo shook his head helplessly. Look for it again. Qin Yang was not giving up. Since he was here, he naturally wanted to look for it first. Okay. Zhao Xinmo nodded gently. After the two did not find anything in the main hall, they went to the side hall, but still did not find anything. They went to the building behind. They came to a square again. Qin Yang stopped. Several people from SYNOPSIS appeared in front. The two sides looked at each other. Zhao Fan smiled and asked, did you two find anything? No. It seems that everything here has been emptied. Nothing was found. Zhao Xinmo sighed. We did too. But this Taoist temple is so secretive. No one should have come here. There should still be something to gain. Zhao Fan said seriously. I hope so. Zhao Xinmo nodded. The two sides parted ways when Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo disappeared into the shadows. Big brother, these two are so mysterious, maybe they really found something. A Qin Yang sect disciple whispered. No hurry. Let them search for a while. Zhaofan smiled slightly. That Zhao Xinmo is not simple. I'm afraid he is a spiritual master. The middle-aged man following Zhaofan said. It's okay. Uncle Zuo is here. As long as you haven't entered the spirit realm, it's nothing. Zhaofan smiled. After a spiritual master breaks through the heavenly soul, it is the spirit realm. This spirit realm also has 3 small realms, namely the spirit, the heroic spirit and the spirit. They are respectively for the warriors 3 flowers gathering ki, 5 kiss converging to the origin, and tungsten. The spiritual master's methods are strange, so it's better to be careful. The middle-aged man said seriously. Uncle Master, don't worry, I will naturally find the right time. Besides, they may not be able to find anything. Let's go to those holes first. Zhaofan disagreed. The middle-aged man frowned secretly when he heard this. Zhaofan has been smooth sailing since he was a child. As the young master of Qin Yang sect, everyone gives him some face, and he has never suffered any big losses. But he knows that no one can be smooth sailing all his life, and sooner or later they will suffer losses. However, even the middle-aged man thinks that this will not be the case this time. It's just a heavenly soul spirit master. He only needs to get within 10 meters of him, and the other party will surely die. Immediately, he also kept silent. Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo came to an area with many courtyard rooms. This should be where the disciples of the Taoist temple live. Zhao Xinmo looked at the nearby environment and understood where this place was. The things in the palace have been emptied. I guess there won't be anything in the other palaces. On the contrary, these wing rooms may have something to gain. Qin Yang said softly. Then let's start from the courtyard. The wing rooms are probably big bunks, where ordinary disciples sleep. The courtyard is where the big shots live. Zhao Xinmo analyzed. Qin Yang agreed with what Zhao Xinmo said. The two came to a courtyard. Do you know these 2 words? Qin Yang saw a few small words engraved in front of the courtyard door. However, this is obviously not the text of the Deu dynasty. It is more ancient and abstract. It should be the text of the Dacian kingdom. Qin Yang can't understand it at all. Let me take a look at Lingayan courtyard. Zhao Xinmo has studied the text of the Dacian kingdom and read it softly. Lingayan. The name is quite unique. Qin Yang raised his eyebrows. The two entered the room in the courtyard. Zhao Xinmo cast another talisman, and the light illuminated the room. All that came into view was a bamboo bed, a mottled desk, and a dark red wardrobe. The two searched the desk, wardrobe, and even under the bed, but still found nothing. Go to the next one. Qin Yang was not discouraged. He searched several courtyards in a row, but still found nothing. But when he reached the last courtyard, as soon as Qin Yang opened the door, his pupils shrank. What's wrong? Zhao Xinmo frowned slightly when he saw Qin Yang open the door, but did not go in. Look. Qin Yang gave up his seat and handed him the tinder box. Zhao Xinmo looked into the room with the tinder box, and his expression also became strange. In the room, a withered skeleton sat cross-legged on the ground, wearing a tattered robe, facing the door. 2 empty eye sockets stared at Zhao Xinmo. Fuck. Zhao Xinmo was sweating profusely. He had seen countless corpses in his life, but never had a corpse made him so nervous. This was the first corpse he had seen in the ruins of the ancient city. Corpses from the Dacian kingdom period. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Warning. Don't let it turn into a corpse. Zhao Xinmo prayed in his heart. If this corpse suddenly jumped up, he didn't know how to hide at such a close distance. In his mind, as long as this corpse suddenly jumped up, it would definitely be an evil spirit, or even a blood spirit. In the classification of evil spirits, vengeful spirits correspond to the Qi and blood realm, evil spirits correspond to the inner breath realm, and evil spirits are Grandmaster realm warriors. As for blood spirits, Grandmaster warriors would wish they had 2 more legs, not to mention a heavenly soul spirit master like him with a fragile body. But fortunately, this ancient corpse did not move at all. Zhao Zinmo breathed a sigh of relief and quickly closed the door. Qin Yang, you can't scare me like this. Zhao Zinmo was still frightened. The main reason was that seeing a corpse in this haunted place was probably that there was a ghost. That corpse should not have any malicious intentions, otherwise it should have jumped out when I opened the door just now. Qin Yang said softly. I know if there was any bad intention, I would have died. Zhao Zinmo nodded, but he was still worried. He took out a bagua mirror and hid behind Qin Yang. I didn't see you being so timid. Qin Yang shook his head and pushed the door open again. This time he didn't hesitate and walked in directly. The corpse sitting cross-legged on the ground was still motionless. After Zhao Zinmo came in, he threw a talisman as before. Bang, the spiritual light illuminated the dark room and everything became clear. This time, they actually saw a book on the desk. Finally there is something. Zhao Zinmo's eyes flashed. You go and take a look. I'll keep an eye on it for you. Qin Yang said in a deep voice. Although he didn't feel any bad intentions from the corpse, he was still very careful. Zhao Zinmo nodded, walked over to the desk, and picked up the book. As a spiritual master, he had a strong soul, and could read 10 lines at a glance. Soon, he finished reading the book. How is it? Qin Yang asked softly. I roughly know what this ancient city is about. Zhao Zinmo sighed slightly. Tell me about it. Qin Yang asked curiously. This book is the diary of this senior. During the Great Qin Kingdom period, this place should be called Wangchuan City. It was a county city with a population of about hundreds of thousands, and life was relatively prosperous and stable. But one day, a terrible plague raged in Wangchuan City. Ordinary plagues make people feel unwell, develop various symptoms, and eventually die. But the plague in Wangchuan City is different. It can make people crazy. Once infected, they will bite living things like mad dogs, whether they are livestock or humans, and then devour their blood. If the infected person devours a large enough amount of blood, he will become an even more terrifying existence. This plague is called Ghost Plague, which caused many deaths and injuries in Wangchuan City. This Taoist temple is called Zhuowen Temple. There are many spiritual masters and Taoists who practice martial arts. It is the largest force in Sichuan City. After investigation, the master of Zhuowen Temple found that it was the source of the plague, which should be caused by a large family in the city. Some dirty things happened in that wealthy family. The wife secretly poisoned the baby boy born to the concubine. After being discovered by the concubine looked everywhere for ways to take revenge. Finally, she found a strange ritual of summoning gods in a dilapidated temple in the wild. And this so-called ritual of summoning gods summoned the arrival of ghosts, leading to an outbreak of plague. Qin Yang couldn't help but interrupt when he heard this. Brother Zhao, what are these ghost seeds? Zhao Zinmo explained. According to records, high-level ghost weapons are one step further, ghost seeds. However, in our time, high-level ghost weapons have never appeared, and ghost seeds are naturally a vague legend. Many people think that ghost seeds do not really exist. Ghost seeds, ghost weapons. Qin Yang thought thoughtfully. Zhao Zinmo continued. After the master of Zhuowen Temple discovered the source, in order to prevent the outbreak of the ghost plague, he evacuated the people in the city, and then took the elders and disciples of the sect to suppress it. In the end, Zhuowen Temple suffered heavy casualties. The ghost species was finally eliminated. But Wangchuan City became a dreaded death place. The evacuated people were unwilling to come back, and it gradually became an empty city. This senior is the only survivor of Zhuowen Temple. He did not leave, but stayed in Zhuowen Temple, guarding the city alone until his death. After listening, Qin Yang frowned. Then why did the statues of this Taoist temple disappear? Zhao Zinmo said softly. During the days when he stayed in Zhuowen Temple, this senior once wrote a sentence. Since the immortals and Buddhas have disappeared, sacrifices are useless. Only those who become immortals and Buddhas can save the world. Qin Yang was surprised and said, the immortals and Buddhas have disappeared. He became an immortal Buddha himself. He not only hopes that future generations will not have any prayers for the immortals and Buddhas, but also hopes that future generations will become immortals and Buddhas. I think that's what it means. As for the statues, I don't think it was destroyed by the senior. Maybe this Taoist temple itself doesn't have any statues. Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. Why is this the case? Do immortals and Buddhas really exist? Qin Yang muttered to himself. The notes of this senior mentioned the extinction of immortals and Buddhas. The premise of extinction is that immortals and Buddhas must exist, because Dacian Kingdom is the era closest to the mythological era. People in this period have a deeper understanding of the mythological era. So, immortals and Buddhas may have really existed, which can also prove that the mythological era is not an illusory legend, but a real history. If immortals and Buddhas existed, why did they disappear? Zhao Xinmo was also puzzled. How should I know? But there are a few books here. Maybe you can take them back and study them carefully. Qin Yang pointed to the bookcase next to him. He could see that there were still a few books in the bookcase. Well, wait until I take it back and take a look. I'll tell you if I find anything. Zhao Xinmo walked to the bookcase and put the books away. When it was time to leave, Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo came to the corpse in tacit understanding and bowed. This senior guarded the Taoist temple alone. No one buried him after his death. Why don't we send him off? Qin Yang said softly. That should be done. Zhao Xinmo nodded. The two left the room first and walked to the back of Zuoyuan Temple. It was a cemetery with many graves, but no names were engraved on the tombstones. Qin Yang found an empty space and dug it. Then the two turned back and buried the body of the Taoist guarding the temple. Senior, I will send you off, Zhao Xinmo said seriously. He recited the Taoist scriptures for salvation. Qin Yang stood aside. After Zhao Xinmo finished reciting, he and Qin Yang bowed again and turned to leave. When they left the gate of the Taoist temple, whoosh, 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 several figures suddenly appeared and blocked their door. Where do you want to go? Chapter 191 Blocking the Road. Zhaofan, the eldest brother of SYNOPSIS sect, stood in front of Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo with a smile. Behind him, there was a group of SYNOPSIS sect disciples. It's dark now. Of course we are going home. Zhao Xinmo seemed to be unaware of the situation and smiled. It's dark and the road is slippery. I'm afraid something will happen to you. How about I take you back? Zhaofan was quite enthusiastic. That's not necessary. Even if I dare to trouble Master Zhao. Zhao Xinmo shook his head. You're welcome. I'm a warm-hearted person. Come on. Escort you two away. Zhaofan made a gesture. The people of SYNOPSIS sect quietly surrounded Zhao Xinmo and Qin Yang. Zhaofan, you don't look like an escort. It looks more like a robbery. Zhao Xinmo sneered. Haha, you still want to play dumb with me? What are you holding in your hand? I remember that, when you went in, you didn't have this bag in your hand. Zhaofan stopped pretending and showed a fierce look. At this time, Zhao Xinmo was indeed holding a black package in his hand. These are the few remaining books in the Taoist temple guarding the temple. Zhao Xinmo would not give Zhaofan such things. He said calmly, are you really going to do it? What do you think? If I hadn't seen that you are a spiritual master and given you some face, I would have done it a long time ago. I hope you know better. Zhaofan said coldly. Then there is nothing to say. Do it. Zhao Xinmo said helplessly. It seems that you really want to die. Zhaofan twisted his wrist, his eyes gradually fierce. The one who fought with you is him. Zhao Xinmo pointed at Qin Yang next to him. Him? Zhaofan smiled disdainfully. He never took this young man who claimed to be Song Lingzi seriously. Me? Qin Yang nodded, and then exerted force with his feet. Swish. He turned into a black light and rushed towards Zhaofan in an instant. His right hand blasted out like thunder. Boom. A violent thunder roared in the entire ancient city ruins. It's thundering? Are you kidding? We are underground. How could there be thunder? What was that sound just now? I don't know. Some teams exploring the ruins of the ancient city were all confused when they heard the sound. Bang. Zhaofan barely reacted, and at the moment Qin Yang attacked, he activated his whole body's true energy. The golden flame like true energy wrapped around his whole body. This is a hard kicking of the SYNOPSIS sect, and it also has a burning effect. Boom. When Qin Yang's palm fell, a fierce force like thunder burst out, and the body's protective true energy was instantly destroyed. Zhaofan barely avoided the vital point, but his left shoulder was still hit hard by a palm, and the whole body rolled out. After falling to the ground, Zhaofan screamed heartbreakingly. His entire shoulder blade shattered and turned into mincemeat. The entire left arm was directly separated from the body due to the shattering of the shoulder blade and fell to the ground. Your Excellency, take action. That's too cruel. A roar came from behind Qin Yang. Zuo Tong was hiding in the dark, thinking of killing Zhao Xinmo the moment he took action. But he didn't expect that Qin Yang, who had been ignored, was so cruel that he seriously injured Zhao Fan with one palm. This time he would definitely be punished when he returned, and he could only relieve it by killing Qin Yang. Just like the rising sun, a golden flame suddenly tore through the darkness and slashed towards Qin Yang fiercely. Clang, the sound of the knife was like the roar of a cold dragon, freezing people's hearts. The moment the Hanyo knife was unsheathed, it quickly slashed towards the back. Clang, the two knives collided violently. Two air currents, one cold and one hot, burst out. Zuo Tong was oppressed by the airflow and couldn't help but step back a few steps. True energy. Zuo Tong frowned. He felt the airflow that Qin Yang had just burst out, which was definitely the true energy of the inner breath realm, not the vitality of the Grandmaster realm. But the opponent can fight against his Xianyang Yuan Qi with only his true energy. Moreover, there is also that exaggerated and terrifying force. Hurry up and gather the 3 flowers at the top of your head. Qin Yang grinned. Zuo Tong stared at Qin Yang. At this time, Zhao Xinmo had already fought with a group of Xianyang disciples. Uncle Zuo, help me kill him. You must kill him. Zhao Fan wailed on the ground. Zuo Tong heard this and took a deep breath. He tapped his danshan, chest and eyebrows 3 times. Boom. In an instant, Zuo Tong's whole body expanded a little, bursting out with strong and hot Xianyang Yuan Qi, golden flames flickering, dazzling. From this aura, it can be seen that Zuo Tong is a genuine master of the 3 flowers gathering at the top of his head, not a waste like Mo Yunlin who piled up in the medicine shop. Come. Just let me try it. Qin Yang laughed wildly, strode forward, and stabbed forward with the Hanyo knife. Swish, the cold abyss knife was like a dragon, wrapped in an extremely cold aura, and stabbed towards Zuo Tong's heart. 3 Yang Kate. Zuo Tong roared wildly, and the long knife in his hand suddenly shone with golden light, and slashed fiercely. Boom. After a hard fight, the two sides started to fight fiercely. Dense knife light enveloped the void, alternating between cold and hot, scorching red light and deep blue orchid constantly flashing. It was as if a vicious and deep dragon was constantly colliding with a golden sun. Both sides wanted to kill each other with violent attacks. After more than a dozen moves, the extremely cold aura seemed to be burned by the golden sun and gradually weakened. Boy, Zhengang is still a little weak after all. Zuo Tong sneered, and the big knife in his hand suddenly bounced off Qin Yang's cold abyss knife and went straight to Qin Yang's neck. Swish, a large amount of golden flame swept up the void, layer upon layer, scorching and unbearable. You are just like that. Qin Yang sneered. The seemingly depressed extreme cold aura burst out again. A shadow of a black armored evil dragon appeared behind him, holding a black knife in its mouth, ferocious and raging. Evil dragon, extreme evil heartless slash. The dragon screamed and roared, and the decadent knife momentum became violent and ferocious again, slashing fiercely at the golden flame knife light. Golden sun slash. Zuo Tong's eyes also became fierce, and his whole body of vitality was poured into the long knife, and the whole big knife seemed to be burning. Boom. With a loud bang, a figure suddenly flew out more than 10 meters away, and crashed into the Taoist temple. You still can't do it. Zuo Tong sneered and ridiculed. A real Force warrior dared to challenge him? Exclamation mark. Too arrogant. Really? I thought I wouldn't need that move. I didn't expect your strength to be good. This is the first time I use this move. Qin Yang slowly walked out of the collapsed wall of the Taoist temple. His clothes became tattered due to the violent impact, but his skin was not damaged at all and was as white as jade. He had received some impact just now, and it seemed that he was chopped and flew away, but in fact, even the Hunyuan key was not broken, so naturally he was not injured at all. Qin Yang casually inserted the Hanyo knife into the ground, and looked at Zuo Tong. Are you ready? Zuo Tong narrowed his eyes. Boy, what are you talking about? Qin Yang grinned. His body suddenly swelled and became bigger, and his whole body changed. It was as if it was a 1,000-year-old cold iron hidden deep in the sea. Deep, cold and fierce. Chapter 192 Ruins. unparalleled in strength. This is the magical power derived from the dragon elephant fist. In addition to increasing strength, it can also enter a terrifying posture of unparalleled strength. Mixed with the energy of the North Sea black water true skill, it forms the current deep, cold and fierce and terrifying energy. Qin Yang's two arms are covered with dense blue blood vessels, like dragons and snakes entwined, as thick as thighs, and the muscles are bulging and ferocious. What kind of secret method is this? Zuo Tong felt Qin Yang's breath at this moment, and his expression was shocked and frightened. This secret method seems to have the same effect as the explosion of the three flowers gathering at the top. But Qin Yang is just a real martial artist. Can he master such a secret method? Exclamation mark. This is not a secret method, this is a fist method. Qin Yang rushed towards Zuo Tong. Boom. The ground shook wildly, as if a dragon and an elephant were trampling on the earth. HMPH. Zuo Tong let out a long roar, and his figure suddenly jumped into the air, his sword shining with golden flames, chasing down like a setting sun. Long river sunset. Millions of mountains destroyed. Qin Yang roared wildly, and the fierce and deep sea-like terrifying power was condensed in his fist, and he punched out. The fist hit the blade fiercely. Boom. Zuo Tong felt as if his broadsword was hit by a giant god holding a heavy hammer. An indescribable force came from the blade. Xianyang's vitality was fiercely blasted away by the fist, and Zuo Tong's body was punched into the sky. Qin Yang stomped his legs and soared into the sky. In an instant, he reached the same height as Zuo Tong and punched out with both fists. Dragon elephant wandering wildly. Qin Yang's punching speed was too dense, heavy, and fast, and the fist wind squeezed out the air. Bang bang bang. Zuo Tong roared, holding the broadsword in both hands and slashing wildly. The two figures fought rapidly in the air, and the figures fell rapidly. Boom. When they landed, Qin Yang suddenly raised his elbow and hit Zuo Tong's head hard. The dance of violence is to overwhelm the opponent without any rules. At the same time, it makes it impossible for the opponent to figure out the punching routine. Puff. Zuo Tong's nose was bleeding wildly, and his nose collapsed. Qin Yang took advantage of the situation to get close to him and swung his left hand vigorously, hitting Zuo Tong's waist and abdomen like a whip. The direction he chose to attack was the spine. With a snap, the sound of bone fracture was heard. Zuo Tong's spine was severely broken by Qin Yang. It seems you are not ready. Qin Yang grinned and punched and kicked Zuo Tong one after another. Bang 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 bang. Zhao Fan fell to the ground, watching in horror as Zuo Tong was beaten by Qin Yang with fists and blood flying and bones bursting. Boom. After a loud bang, Zuo Tong's broken body suddenly flew out and landed on Zhao Fan. Who are you? Zhao Fan wailed in shock and despair. His face was covered with Zuo Tong's flesh and blood. Didn't I tell you my name is Song Lingzi? Qin Yang came to Zhao Fan and smiled slightly, then suddenly raised his foot and stomped hard. Boom. Zhao Fan's head was crushed and exploded. At the same time, Zhao Xinmo finally killed all the people in Xianyang sect. You brought the corpse burning talisman. Qin Yang ended his fierce and unparalleled state and asked lightly. Of course I brought such a good thing. Zhao Xinmo understood what Qin Yang wanted to do and threw out more than a dozen spiritual talismans, which landed on every corpse of Xianyang sect and burned quickly. As a spiritual master, it is absolutely unqualified not to carry a few corpse burning talismans. This kind of weapon for destroying corpses is too useful. Let's go. Seeing the corpse burning quickly, Qin Yang said quickly. The fighting just now was quite noisy, and people exploring the ruins of the ancient city would probably be attracted soon. The figures of the two quickly disappeared near the Taoist temple. The Taoist temple quickly returned to dead silence and darkness. But after a while, the dead silence was broken again. A team holding torches hurried over. It seems we are late, someone said in surprise. Yes, it is indeed late. The bodies have been burned to ashes. Someone raised a torch and shone it on the ground and could see many clumps of black sticky ashes. The people in this team are all veterans, and they can see at a glance that these are traces caused by the corpse burning talisman. Although only spiritual masters can make corpse burning talismans, basically everyone who walks around has a few in their hands. Once the body is burned by the corpse burning talisman, no one can recognize the original appearance of the body. But this Taoist temple is a bit strange. Maybe we can go in and take a look. A tall and thin man found Zuoan temple. The two groups of people who had a conflict may have fought because of this Taoist temple. Someone speculated. Then go in and take a look quickly. Maybe there are some missing things that have not been found. Someone said anxiously. Soon, everyone in this team reached an agreement and headed towards Zuoan temple. After that, several more teams came over. Since the Taoist temple building was too conspicuous, these teams naturally went in to explore. Soon, a fierce fight broke out again in the Taoist temple. Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo did not leave the ancient city ruins immediately. The bodies of Zhao Fan and others were destroyed, and no one could find them. Besides, it should be a few days before Xianyangman knew that Zhao Fan and others had lost contact. They were looking for another place. Gem Mansion. In the notes left by the Taoist guarding the temple, it was recorded that all the sources of the ghost plague came from this mansion. Qin Yang wanted to see the ruins after the war. The ruins of the ancient city were too huge. Zhao Xinmo used some clues in the notes and the compass to confirm the direction, but it took him 7 or 8 hours to find it. This is the former Gem Mansion. Qin Yang held up a fire stick, stood on a piece of ruins, and muttered to himself. This piece of ruins was very huge, and the area within a radius of more than 10 miles was affected and reduced to ruins. He was now standing in the center of the ruins, and his heart was inexplicably shocked. It is hard to imagine how much power is needed to destroy a radius of more than 10 miles. Well, high-level ghost weapons can pollute the land of a state. If the ghost species that descended on Wangchuan City had not been stopped by Zuoan Temple, I don't know how many people would have been killed or injured. Zhao Xinmo sighed slightly. He could see that there were many traces of excavation in this ruins. After all, such a large ruin is easy to be discovered. But obviously, no one has found anything in this ruins. This ruins is really just a ruin. This ghost species is really terrifying. If it appears now, I don't know who can deal with it. Qin Yang said softly. I don't know if it's possible for a martial saint or a soul master. But there hasn't been a martial saint in Daewoo Dynasty for hundreds of years. Zhao Xinmo shook his head. The realm of martial saint is the next realm after the master. But Daewoo is such a huge territory, and many amazing and talented warriors have emerged in hundreds of years, but no one has ever broken through to the realm of martial saint. The Soul Master is also in the Soul Realm, which seems to exist only in books. Let's go. After Qin Yang saw the scale of the ruins of Gem Mansion, an idea came into his mind. Finally one day, I will destroy the area within a radius of 10 miles with one punch. Chapter 193 Visit. After seeing the ruins of Gem Mansion, Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo left the ruins of the ancient city and returned to the Sky Patrol Division. Zhao Xinmo couldn't wait to go back and check the ancient books, so he said goodbye to Qin Yang in a hurry. Qin Yang went to Len Kang alone and told him about the ruins of the ancient city. So there is no danger in the ruins of the ancient city? Len Kang was also shocked and broke out in a cold sweat after listening to Qin Yang's report. If there are still ghost species left, I'm afraid even the head of the division will find it difficult to deal with them. No. The ghost species was destroyed during the Dacian Kingdom period. The ruins of the ancient city are really just an abandoned empty city. Qin Yang said in a deep voice. Then I'll count your contribution points as 500 this time. Len Kang nodded. Although Qin Yang didn't find anything valuable this time, the intelligence information he brought back was also of certain value. Qin Yang smiled and said, then you have to ask someone to hide my token. Don't worry, when have I ever owed you anything? Len Kang shook his head speechlessly and then thought of something. Speaking of which, the ruins of Dacian Kingdom have appeared quite frequently recently. Not long ago, a small ruin appeared in Shanyu County. Did you find anything in the ruins? Qin Yang asked. No. Zhang Kangjin went to investigate that time. According to the report he submitted, the ruins were almost completely destroyed, and there was nothing valuable. Len Kang said casually. Zhang Kangjin. Qin Yang was slightly startled when he heard the name. He remained calm and said lightly, then I'll leave first. After leaving the Xuxi Hall, Qin Yang quickly returned to his room. Zhang Kangjin also went to the ruins of Dacian Kingdom. Len Kang said not long ago, so the time should not be very far away. Qin Yang felt that he seemed to have caught something. He came to the bookcase. There were many books placed here. but he had already checked these books. They were all some martial arts experiences and some strange talks, nothing special. I remember there seemed to be a book that seemed to be similar to the Dacian language. Qin Yang said softly. Soon, he took out a thick book. At that time, he still thought that this book was a bit suspicious. After asking around, he found out that this book was equivalent to a dictionary, which was specially used to translate the Dacian language. It can be bought in larger study rooms on the market. But this time, after Leng Kang reminded him, he remembered this dictionary again. Qin Yang flipped through it casually. Dacian ruins. And this dictionary, why did Zhang Kangjin suddenly start to study this Dacian culture? Qin Yang kept sorting out clues. At the beginning, someone sneaked into his house to look for something. Naturally, he thought there was some treasure in the house. Zhang Kangjin himself should have died because of this, but the person who attacked him did not find this treasure, so he has been looking for it. This treasure is very likely related to the Dacian kingdom. Qin Yang muttered to himself. He felt that this guess was very close to the truth. In this way, it will be easy to deal with it. A few days later, whenever Qin Yang was free, he would go to the Wanshu Pavilion to look for some books about the Great Khan Kingdom and read them constantly. Under the guidance of the manager of the Wanshu Pavilion, Qin Yang often went to Chunai Mountain outside the city to find a reclusive scholar. This scholar has studied the culture of the Great Khan Kingdom for decades and has a very deep foundation. Under the influence of his eyes and ears, Qin Yang's understanding of the Great Khan Kingdom was also rapidly improving. However, his actions soon attracted the attention of some people. Dark secret room. Qin Yang has been going to Chunai Mountain to find Master Zhao recently. It must be for the Great Khan Kingdom. Could it be that he found the treasure left by Zhang Kangjin? A low voice said. It's hard to say, but this is indeed very abnormal with Qin Yang's usual style. Another gentle voice sounded. They also secretly observed Qin Yang. This is a guy who is extremely persistent in martial arts. In addition to carrying out tasks, he is almost always practicing martial arts, which is boring and tedious. But now Qin Yang suddenly stopped practicing martial arts and went to find a hermit to learn about the Great Khan Kingdom. This is very puzzling. We must find out as soon as possible. Otherwise, Qin Yang might really take what Zhang Kangjin found. Then we will have wasted all our efforts. The low and hoarse voice became anxious. What do you want to do? The gentle voice asked. Go to Master Zhao and ask him clearly. Qin Yang should have revealed a lot of things to him. The low and hoarse voice said in a deep voice. Well, I'll go with you. The gentle voice agreed. He didn't want to be picked by Qin Yang after planning for so long. This day, Qin Yang left the Sky Patrol early in the morning, like he did a few days ago, and went to Chunai Mountain outside the city. The mountain is not high, with birds singing and flowers blooming, and a bamboo forest planted. Deep in the bamboo forest, there is a quiet courtyard. This is where Master Zhao lives in seclusion. This Master Zhao is also a scholar with some fame in Yangning City. He has served as the academic official for decades, and his students are all over the world. When he was old, he came to Chunai Mountain to live in seclusion, not caring about worldly affairs, and focusing on studying historical materials related to the Dacian kingdom. The courtyard door was open. However, Qin Yang still knocked gently at the door. Come in. An old and elegant voice came. Qin Yang walked into the courtyard and saw a thin old man in a grey robe watering the flowers and trees in the courtyard. Qin Yang, you are here so early? Master Zhao said with a smile. I bought you the best Longjing tea in the city. Qin Yang naturally did not come empty-handed, and he was holding a few bags of tea in his hand. I guess I can't finish the property you have given me these days until the day I lie in the coffin. Master Zhao smiled. I hope you live a long life. I'm still waiting for you to solve the mystery of the Great Khan Kingdom. Qin Yang shook his head. Come, sit down and talk. Master Zhao smiled slightly. The two sat down next to a tree stump. You asked me some questions before. I also searched for information for a long time. Especially why the Great Khan Kingdom perished. There was no record in the original historical materials. At first I thought it might be caused by constant natural disasters and corruption in the government. After all, the demise of dynasties generally cannot escape those reasons. But after you told me about the ghost species, I went to look for some records about the Great Yu Kingdom. The Great Yu Kingdom was a huge dynasty that reappeared after the demise of the Great Qin Kingdom. This dynasty lasted for thousands of years and left many records. Our current understanding of the Great Qin Kingdom is basically passed down from that time, but there is no specific record of why the Great Qin Kingdom perished. But I found some legends and anecdotes in an ancient book. The demise of the Great Qin Kingdom may be caused by the ghost species. Chapter 194 Legend. Master Zhao said to Qin Yang, and he picked up the boiling teapot and poured it for Qin Yang. The fragrance of tea filled the air. Qin Yang's eyes were scattered, as if he was thinking about what Master Zhao had just said. The demise of the Great Qin Kingdom originated from the ghost species master. What kind of ghost species can destroy a dynasty? Qin Yang found it hard to imagine. Is the power of the ghost species really so terrible? How can I, a mere mortal, know such a great power? That book also records ominous things, and it is just guessed, based on some clues. At the end of the Great Qin Kingdom, ghost species appeared frequently, causing a large number of plagues, disasters, and deaths. At that time, the Great Qin Kingdom exhausted all its strength to suppress these ghost species. In the end, it was helpless and perished. The human race at that time was hit hard, and just when it was about to perish, the ghost species disappeared strangely again. The human race was able to take a breath, and then there were hundreds of years of war, and the Deu dynasty unified the world again. And the ghost species disappeared until now, and have never appeared again. Master Zhao seemed to have said too much, and his throat was a little thirsty, so he took a sip of tea. Large scale appearance and strange disappearance. What exactly are these ghost species and ghost weapons? Qin Yang shook his head helplessly. He had come into contact with ghost weapons many times, and asked many people. But no one has ever been able to explain clearly how ghost weapons and ghost species appeared. I think the immortals and Buddhas of the mythological era may give you the answer. Unfortunately, according to the writings of the Taoist master you mentioned, the immortals and Buddhas have gone far away. The answer can only be found by ourselves. Master Zhao said in a deep voice. Although they had known each other for a short time, he had talked a lot with Qin Yang. Even though Qin Yang had never revealed his identity, Master Zhao himself was just a mortal, and had no cultivation. But after all, he had been the academic official in Yangning Prefecture for so many years. Although his eyes were dim, he could still recognize people. He knew that a young man with the temperament of Qin Yang was not an ordinary person. That would be a bit difficult. So many years have passed. Qin Yang smiled bitterly. Yes, but it would be best if we could find the answer. Even if I live in seclusion in these mountains and forests, I know that the world is becoming increasingly chaotic and evil spirits are rampant. You never know when the ghost species will appear again. I'm not afraid of my age, but it's difficult for the people of the world. Master Zhao shook his head and sighed. Don't worry so much, old man. But can you lend me the ancient book you mentioned to refer to it? Qin Yang asked. Of course you can. Master Zhao nodded. He walked back into the house and took out a damaged ancient book. This ancient book is mostly damaged, and even the title is gone. I'll call it the Incomplete Ancient Scripture. It seems to be written by a Taoist priest. It records many miscellaneous talks and strange stories. As for how much truth and how much falsehood, it depends on you to determine. Master Zhao said softly. The Incomplete Ancient Scripture is quite interesting. Qin Yang put it away with interest. Then Qin Yang kept asking Master Zhao questions and stayed until noon before leaving the bamboo forest. At night, the mountain moon was high in the sky and the moonlight fell on the bamboo forest. The mountain breeze gently blew the bamboo leaves. The sound of birds and insects was endless, and they were connected into one. Two black-clothed figures quietly approached Master Zhao's bamboo forest. You stay here and watch first. I'll go in and take Master Zhao away. The low and hoarse voice said. The other person nodded. Master Zhao didn't have any cultivation, so one person was enough. A figure in black suddenly walked towards the bamboo forest courtyard. The front of the courtyard was the master bedroom, the left was the kitchen, and the right was the study. After climbing over the wall, the figure in black came to the master bedroom and tapped the door with his right index finger. A slight force penetrated quietly. The wooden door latch of the room broke quietly. This required a high level of control over the internal force to be able to do it. The door was quietly opened. The moonlight scattered into the room. The figure in black finally saw the situation in the room clearly. In the bed, a white-haired figure was sleeping on his side under the quilt. It should be Master Zao. Seeing this, the figure in black quietly walked into the room and tapped the man's neck with his right hand like lightning. Suddenly, the sleeping Master Zao suddenly turned over, revealing a young face in the shadows. Both eyes were full of deep and fierceness. "It's broken." Seeing this face, the black-clothed figure exclaimed in his heart, gritted his teeth, urged his whole body's true energy, and stabbed the man's eyes fiercely. Qin Yang stretched out his palm and blocked it in front of him skillfully and casually. With a snap, the fingers of the black-clothed figure broke. "You don't seem to have made any progress," Qin Yang said disappointedly. The black-clothed man turned around and ran away in fear. Now Qin Yang is not even a match for the Grandmaster warriors who have 3 flowers gathered at the top of the head, let alone himself. This is also the reason why they dare not attack Qin Yang and only dare to attack Master Zao. But Qin Yang knew that this guy's body movements were weird, and it would be difficult to chase him if he really left the room. His figure suddenly turned into a black light and swept up from the bed, and his palm hit the back of the other party's head like a knife. Bang! The black-clothed figure immediately fell unconscious. Qin Yang carried the black-clothed figure out of the courtyard. Just at this time, a figure also carried a person in. "This guy is so heavy that I almost couldn't lift him up," Zhao Zinmo complained. "Can't you spiritual masters exercise properly?" Qin Yang shook his head helplessly. Tonight, he estimated that the other party had accomplices, so he called Zhao Zinmo to help. "First, when you have time. I'll slip away first." Zhao Zinmo smiled. "Don't you want to know what it is?" Qin Yang asked. "Forget it. I feel a little dangerous." Zhao Zinmo shook his head. "Well, then let's go back first." Qin Yang said no more. Zhao Zinmo waved his hand and turned to leave the bamboo forest courtyard. Qin Yang took off the veils of the 2 men in black. "It turned out to be you two." Qin Yang smiled slightly. In fact, after investigating for so long, he already had some suspected targets in his mind, and this time he deliberately set up a trap to lure these 2 people out. So when he saw the faces of these 2 people, he immediately recognized them. The man who was knocked unconscious by Zhao Zinmo was a man in his 40s named Emokan. This man had worked in the Ministry of Internal Affairs for more than 10 years and was in charge of the archives room. His last name is Emo, so he is a member of the Emo family. However, he was not cleared out during the purge of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. This person should be able to withstand the investigation and not be corrupt. As for the person who sneaked into the bamboo forest courtyard and was knocked unconscious by Qin Yang, he was a gloomy old man. This guy is called Han Chen. He is a wandering knight in the rivers and lakes. He was spotted by Ma Cheng and recruited into the Zunming department. At the same time, he is also Ma Cheng's trusted subordinate. It is said that he specializes in doing some dirty things for Ma Cheng. Zhang Kangjin should have been secretly killed by these 2 guys, and then the blame was put on Liu Yun. Chapter 195 Note: Don't pretend with me. Get up. Qin Yang said lightly. As soon as he finished speaking, the 2 people who were still unconscious opened their eyes, looking a little terrified. "I didn't expect that you would actually scheme against me. We only thought you were a reckless man, but we didn't expect you to have such a mind." Emokan shook his head helplessly. "I have many more plans. You 2 can't beat me." Qin Yang smiled slightly. "Kill me if you want. No need to talk so much nonsense." Han Chen sneered. "Of course you will die. But I'm very curious about what Zhang Kangjin found that made you search so hard." Qin Yang asked seriously. "I don't know." Han Chen shook his head directly. Emokan was silent. "Why bother? I'm willing to accept the loss. It is not unfair to lose to me." Qin Yang smiled. "Qin Yang, act faster," Han Chen urged. "You have no children, so you are not afraid of being alone." "Emokan, what do you say? You have several children, right?" Qin Yang looked at Emokan on the side. "Qin Yang, the rules of the martial arts world don't let your wife and children suffer." Emokan whispered. "This is the rule of the martial arts world, but I handed you over to Leng Kang. I don't know if he will abide by this rule. After all, you killed a Yuxi person." What's more, the relationship between the Zunshan division and the aristocratic families is so tense now, Len Kang may make a fuss about this matter. By then, your wife and children will be the center of the vortex. Qin Yang said lightly. Emo Khan's eyes flickered. Qin Yang's words obviously pierced his heart. After pondering, he asked, Qin Yang, what do you want to do? Tell me about Zhang Kangjin. Qin Yang said softly. Emo Khan said in a deep voice, Zhang Kangjin once entered a Dacian kingdom ruins and should have taken away a map. At that time, he concealed the map and used it for himself. Qin Yang knew that his guess was right when he heard it, and he asked again in confusion, then how did you two know it? Zhang Kangjin obtained the mysterious map, and he should keep the secret tightly and not tell anyone, right? Because I have been studying the history and culture of Dacian Kingdom. After knowing about the ruins, I quietly went in once. There is a stone tablet in the ruins, which records something. Emo Khan said lightly. What is it? Qin Yang asked. Emo Khan continued. It turns out that the ruins were the place where a senior from the Dacian Kingdom practiced in seclusion. This senior once found the location of a secret realm of the Immortal Mansion. Before that, he made a map of the location of the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion and left it for the right person to take it. But when I followed the guidance of the stone tablet, I didn't find any map in the cave. At that time, I guessed that Zhang Kangjin must have taken it away. It's a pity that he couldn't understand the characters of the Dacian Kingdom, so he didn't destroy the stone tablet, but left clues. Qin Yang seemed to be thinking about something. So you found Han Chen, and the two of them joined forces to secretly kill Zhang Kangjin. Well, we wanted to capture Zhang Kangjin alive and force him to tell us the location of the map. But Zhang Kangjin would rather commit suicide in the end, and didn't leave us any clues. We searched his body, but found nothing. After that, we can only look for his residence and check his relatives and friends to find the map. But until now, we still haven't found the map. Emo Khan shook his head slightly. What exactly is the Immortal Mansion secret realm? Is it worth your crazy search? Qin Yang asked in confusion. The Immortal Mansion secret realm can prove that the mythological era really existed. In some classics, these Immortal Mansion secret realms were once the residences of immortals and Buddhas, independent of the space of our world. Once the Immortal Mansion secret realm is found, maybe you can obtain the power of immortals and Buddhas. Emo Khan's expression suddenly became fanatical. Has anyone found it in all these years? Qin Yang asked indifferently. No. Even if there is, it will be blocked by some powerful forces. Qin Yang, if you want to find that map, I advise you to be careful. Once it is known to others, the Sky Patrol will not be able to protect you. Emo Khan even kindly reminded Qin Yang. Well, do you have any last words? Qin Yang asked indifferently. No. I just hope you can keep your promise. Emo Khan closed his eyes. Don't worry, the disaster will not affect my wife and children. Qin Yang nodded. The next moment, Emo Khan and Han Chen's heads fell to the ground. Qin Yang took the bodies of the two to a hillside in the distance, and then put on the corpse-burning talisman. He then returned to the bamboo forest courtyard. Master Zhao was still unconscious in the study. At this time, Qin Yang used a drug to knock him out. He moved Master Zhao back to the master bedroom and wiped out all traces before leaving the bamboo forest courtyard again. After returning to the room of the Sky Patrol Division, Qin Yang sat at the desk and pondered. I haven't even figured out the ghost species yet, and now there is a secret realm of the Immortal Mansion. Who would have thought that this world still contains so many terrifying secrets? But speaking of it, where did Zhang Kangjin hide the map? Qin Yang pondered. Emo Khan and Han Shen are from the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Ministry of Patrol, respectively, and are in charge of a lot of intelligence information. If even they can't find it, it will probably take some time for Qin Yang to find it. Map. I've searched everywhere in this room, big and small. Could it be that Zhang Kangjin hid it somewhere else? Qin Yang had a headache. This area is too big. I don't know when I will find it. I think the most likely possibility is still in this house. But it's not just me. Even Han Chen and Emo Khan have searched countless times. Still can't find it. Qin Yang's eyes flickered. He thought he should look inside the house first. I've searched inside the house, but what about outside the yard? Qin Yang suddenly felt that he was a little out of his depth. He walked out of the room and first rummaged through the flower bed in the yard. Nothing was found. Is it really not here? Qin Yang frowned. Just then, a breeze blew gently. The wind chime hanging under the eaves swayed gently, making a subtle crisp sound. No way. Qin Yang was stunned. He walked under the eaves and looked at the wind chime with a strange look in his eyes. Sometimes, things that are too obvious will make people glance over them. He was tall, and he didn't need the help of a wooden ladder. He stretched out his hand and took down the wind chime. Gently pulled it open. There was a roll of paper inside. If Mo-Kyan and Han Chen knew that they had come across this map countless times, I wonder what they would think. Qin Yang shook his head slightly, hung up the wind chime again, and returned to the room. He placed the note on the desk and unfolded it. A palm-sized ancient map appeared in Qin Yang's eyes. Chapter 196 Dream. Looking at this small map, Qin Yang was also slightly moved. If it weren't for a coincidence, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to find this map. Although this map is small, it is very clear, and the mountains and rivers are all presented one by one. There are also some Dacian characters that are smaller than flies. Qin Yang has been cramming knowledge about Dacian these days, and with his amazing memory, he can barely understand these Dacian characters. Wuha Immortal Mansion. Qin Yang first looked at the center of the map, where there was a symbol that looked like a cave, and there were 4 small characters written on it. It seems that this Immortal Mansion secret realm should be called Wuha Immortal Mansion, and is located in the White Dragonstone Mountain. Qin Yang has seen the map of Yangning Prefecture. He tried to overlap this map with the map of Yangning Prefecture, but found that it didn't match. White Dragonstone Mountain should not be in Yangning Prefecture. Even after so many years, the mountain range may not be called White Dragonstone Mountain anymore. Qin Yang said to himself. He was not in a hurry to find this White Dragonstone Mountain. If this Immortal Mansion secret realm really exists, it is a legacy of the mythological era, and it may be related to immortals and Buddhas. Qin Yang felt that he had to break through to the Grandmaster level before he could check out this secret realm, otherwise he would be going to die. I will slowly investigate where the White Dragonstone Mountain is later. Qin Yang carefully rolled up the note and put it away. Then he took out the incomplete ancient scripture and read it. Although this incomplete ancient scripture was written by an alchemist of the Deu dynasty, it was written in the Dacian language. Moreover, this book is indeed very incomplete, with almost no complete content, and the previous text does not connect to the next text. The writing is even more absurd and messy, which makes people upset. However, Qin Yang still gritted his teeth and read this incomplete ancient scripture. Finally, he saw a few pages that recorded the demise of the Dacian dynasty. He reluctantly translated it. I saw immortals and Buddhas wailing in the heavens and transformed into terrifying monsters. I also saw people turning into ghosts and gods, causing droughts, floods, plagues, wildfires, and earthquakes. Many cities turned into ruins, and bones piled up in the wilderness. A huge dynasty was destroyed. Later, everything returned to peace. Immortals and Buddhas remained in the heavens forever, and the ghosts disappeared strangely. When I woke up, I realized it was just a dream. This dream was dreamed of in an ancient tomb in Dacian kingdom. The owner of the ancient tomb seemed to want to convey something to me. Qin Yang translated a long paragraph of text with great difficulty. It is hard to imagine that when the Taoist priest wrote this paragraph, his mental state should have been very chaotic and disordered. Ghosts descended. Immortals and Buddhas mutated. What did Dacian kingdom experience at that time? Qin Yang found it hard to imagine. These secrets can only be slowly revealed by him. Now, it is most important for him to strengthen his strength first. Mo-Kyan and Han Chen are not unknown people in the Patrol Sky Division. One is Ma Cheng's confidant, and the other is an old man in the Ministry of Internal Affairs who has worked diligently for many years and even escaped the Great Purge. Especially Ma Cheng. After learning that Han Chen was missing, he spent a lot of effort to find him. In the main hall of the Ministry of Patrol, the supervisor Ma Cheng sat in the main seat in a black robe. He was about 40 years old, with a white film on his left eye, and he looked sinister and deep. Supervisor, there is no record of Mo-Kyan and Han Chen going out of the patrol department. The two should have sneaked out. A man with ordinary facial features walked into the hall and reported with a fist. Sneaking out? What the hell are these two guys doing? Ma Cheng snorted coldly. According to the investigation, Han Chen and Mo Qian have a deep friendship, but they just hide it very well. The man continued. It seems that Han Chen is hiding something from me. Ma Cheng's right eye flashed coldly. As his confidant, Han Chen knows a lot of things. If someone really plots against him, it will be troublesome. Zhao-san, you continue to investigate the disappearance of Han Chen and Mo Qian. Ma Cheng said softly. The man clasped his fists and left. Just as the man left, a flash of black light suddenly flew into the hall. Ma Cheng stretched out 2 fingers and gently caught the black light. It was an invitation. Ma Cheng curiously opened the invitation. His eyes became solemn. But he still stood up and left the Zunshan division. He walked around in Yangning City and finally turned into a courtyard in an alley. Ma Cheng, I knew you would come. In the courtyard, a tall and thin man was cracking melon seeds and said with a smile, Wu Qian, what can't be said in the Zunshan division? Why did you invite me to a place like this? Ma Cheng sat down opposite Wu Qian with a stern tone. Why are you so hostile to me? We have worked together for so many years. There should be no conflicts. Wu Qian casually gave Ma Cheng a handful of melon seeds. There are no conflicts, but there should be nothing to say. Ma Cheng did not give Wu Qian any face. That's right. If there's nothing to say, would you still come? I heard about Han Chen's disappearance. I asked you to come this time, just to make you be careful. Wu Qian said lightly. What do you mean? Do you know Han Chen's whereabouts? Ma Cheng frowned. That's not true. But in the Sky Patrol, how many people can make Han Chen and Mo Qian disappear silently? Wu Qian said with a smile. Do you mean that Song Si shouted it? Ma Cheng narrowed his eyes. I didn't say that. Everything is your guess. But now Song Yechen is making such a big move in the Sky Patrol. You also saw it. He wants to purge the Sky Patrol. When our families are purged, do you think you can be safe? Wu Qian asked with a smile. Why not? Ma Cheng asked back. Everyone thinks you are Song Yechen's direct descendant, but are you really a direct descendant? Leng Kang is. When Song Yechen parachuted in from the Imperial City, the only person he brought was Leng Kang. Wu Qian said lightly. But if it weren't for the support of Chief Song, I wouldn't be in this position. Ma Cheng said coldly. In the past, he was just an unknown person in the patrol department. After Song Yechen took office, he saw his potential and continued to support him so that he became the head of the Yangning Patrol Department today. That's indeed the truth. But have you ever thought that Song Yechen chose you just because of your simple background? As the saying goes, when the birds are gone, the good bows are hidden. When our families are purged from the patrol department, I guarantee that you will be the next target. Wu Qian cracked melon seeds and said casually. Are you trying to sow discord? Ma Cheng narrowed his eyes. Ma Cheng, I'm giving you advice. Even if I'm purged from the patrol department, I can still return to the Wu family. But if you are purged, you will have nothing. Are you willing to give up all your power and status now? Wu Qian smiled. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Great Success. After listening to Wu Qian's words, Ma Cheng fell into deep thought. Song Yechen has treated him well over the years, but it was also because he needed him to deal with the people from the aristocratic family. Once the people from the aristocratic family are gone, what should he do? Wu Qian didn't say one thing, but Ma Cheng knew it very well. That is, he himself is not clean, and his corruption is no less than that of the people from the aristocratic family. In the past, Song Yechen might have turned a blind eye, but once he was useless, he might really use him as a scapegoat. It seems that you also think what I said makes sense. Wu Qian saw that Ma Cheng didn't speak, so he knew that what he said worked. Shen Sangxiu's evaluation of Ma Cheng was very pertinent. This person has good abilities, but he is narrow-minded and selfish. To put it simply, he is an ungrateful person who can't be fed. What do you want me to do? Ma Cheng's eyes flickered. No hurry. We will notify you after we have planned it. Wu Qian smiled knowingly. As he said that, he took out a contract. I heard that you've recently taken a fancy to a courtesan in my Aoi Tower. This is her indenture contract. She'll be yours from now on. Cooperate with us, and you'll have whatever you want. After putting down the contract, Wu Kan got up and left. Ma Cheng looked at the contract, hesitated for a moment, and put it away. More than a month has passed. During this time, Qin Yang stayed in the martial arts training room, and did not go out. All the 500 source powers obtained from the ruined ancient city were exchanged for elixirs. After the dragon elephant fist was perfected, Qin Yang's focus of practice shifted to the evil dragon swallowing knife. Of course, the beaming black water sutra cannot be left behind. Host, Qin Yang beaming black water true skill, 7th level, 1621/2000, Yin Yang life and death talisman sutra, 5 levels, Yin talisman. 560/750 Yang talisman. 530/750, Dragon Elephant Fist, perfect, unparalleled in fierceness, Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade, minor success, 1775/1800, Turtle Snake Art, perfect, extreme cold, only 25. Experience points are needed to break through to the great success level in the martial arts training room. Qin Yang held the Hinayuan blade, looked at the attribute panel, and muttered to himself. He exuded a dark blue aura, causing the room temperature to drop madly. The next moment, he swung the Hinayuan blade in the martial arts training room. The whole person seemed to have turned into a cold pond dragon. Sometimes he stretched out his claws to hunt, sometimes he opened his bloody mouth to bite, and sometimes his body rolled over. The vicious and sinister nature of the evil dragon swallowing evil blade was fully displayed by him, over and over again. As the blade trembled, the sound of a dragon roaring could be heard faintly. Suddenly, at a certain moment, a loud and fierce dragon roar suddenly sounded in the martial arts training room. This sound had a terrifying penetrating power, and could be heard from a long distance. The warriors in the martial arts training room were all shocked by the dragon roar. A warrior who was practicing internal skills suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. This dragon roar is so scary. The dragon roar interrupted the flow of his internal energy, causing the blood and ki to surge backwards and the meridians to be damaged. Who is making this dragon roar? Is it a kind of sonic martial arts? But it sounds like a knife roar to me. Many warriors walked out of the training room, trying to find the source of the dragon roar, but there was no more dragon roar after that, so everyone had to disperse. Qin Yang felt that his arms, especially his palms, were undergoing strange transformations. His 5 fingers became slender, and his finger bones became more vigorous and powerful. When Qin Yang raised his right hand, he found that his palm was vaguely similar to a dragon's claw. He opened the panel again, and saw that the evil dragon devouring blade had entered the realm of great perfection. A lot of swordsmanship insights poured into his mind. His originally deep eyes gradually became fierce, with a faint blue light. The swordsmanship of the evil dragon devouring blade has an impact on one's own mind. But these effects are too weak compared to the beaming black water sutra. With Qin Yang's current spiritual cultivation, it is easy to adapt. It is he who controls the evil intention, not the evil emotion that controls him. This is crucial. After 2 or 3 breaths, Qin Yang's eyes returned to the deep and indifferent look before. I don't know if Zhao Xinmo has gained anything from seclusion for so long. After practicing the evil dragon devouring blade to perfection, Qin Yang planned to go out for a walk. He left the martial arts training room and headed towards the Zuanling department. Buy big or small, buy it and leave it. As soon as Qin Yang entered the Zuanling department, he heard a shout from the hall in the distance. I've heard before that Zuan Qian, the head of the Zuanling department, is addicted to gambling. It seems that he is not lying. Qin Yang shook his head helplessly. The personalities of these spiritual masters are really weirder than each other. So far, he has come into contact with 2 who are more like normal people. One is Zhao Xinmo and the other is Liu Yun. I hope Zhao Huan will not become weird in the future. Qin Yang muttered. Since he came to Yangning's Anshan division, he has exchanged letters with Zhao Huan less and less. The main reason is that the journey is too long, and it takes too long for a letter to be delivered, and there may be various accidents on the way. Qin Yang walked around the Zuanling Hall, and all kinds of strange buildings appeared in front of him. His eyes quickly locked on a courtyard that looked ordinary. Dong dong dong. Qin Yang knocked on the door gently. Creak. After a while, Zhao Zinmo, with a dazed look and dark circles under his eyes, pushed open the door. "You are here." Zhao Zinmo saw Qin Yang and called out weakly, "What happened to you, kid?" Qin Yang felt that Zhao Zinmo was about to die suddenly at any time. "I've been studying the books I brought back these days, day and night." Zhao Zinmo led Qin Yang into the courtyard. "You haven't studied those books thoroughly after reading them for so long?" Qin Yang asked in surprise. Zhao Zinmo was a divine cultivator, and his memory and comprehension were much better than those of ordinary people. "It would take a few days to study those books thoroughly. You make it sound so easy. It seems like there are only a few books, but I have to look through a lot of information to verify them, and then make inferences and conclusions. Why don't you try it?" Zhao Zinmo said unhappily. He took Qin Yang to his study. The study was filled with a mountain of books, which made Qin Yang a little scared. "Did you move all the books from the Wanshu pavilion here?" Qin Yang said in surprise. "Almost, or you think it's so simple?" Zhao Zinmo rolled his eyes. "So what have you gained now?" Qin Yang asked curiously. "Some of them are about the study of ghost species. Back then, that senior guarded the Taoist temple alone and studied the origin of ghost species. Those books were his painstaking works. He did not destroy them, hoping to bring some help to people in the future," Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. Qin Yang thought of the lonely corpse in the Taoist temple, and his respect for him increased by 3 points. Zhao Zinmo picked up the books on the ground casually, quickly cleared a space, and then moved 2 small stools. The two sat directly on the small stools. "After studying those books, I felt a sense of despair. Perhaps that Taoist senior was more desperate than us," Zhao Zinmo suddenly said. Chapter 198 Despair. Despair? How desperate would it be? Qin Yang asked softly. He felt that Zhao Zinmo's expression seemed to be wrong. "You will understand after you listen to me," Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. Qin Yang nodded and listened attentively. "Based on those notebooks, I roughly restored the speculation of the Taoist elder. A long time ago, immortals and Buddhas did exist in this world. Immortals and Buddhas are far more powerful than mortals. They can overturn rivers and seas and collapse the world in just a thought. Their lifespan is almost infinite. At that time, immortals and Buddhas ruled the world, and it became what we call the mythological era. In the mythological era, there was no dynasty. The human race believed in the various immortals and Buddhas, and formed many major religions. That was a brilliant era in which countless geniuses emerged and all became immortals." Zhao Zinmo's heart surged as he spoke. He seemed to wish he could be born in that ancient and brilliant mythological era. The mythological era was so powerful, why did it suddenly collapse? Qin Yang frowned. "Because the ghost seeds have descended. According to the old Taoists' guess, the ghost seeds are not evil things produced by our world, but strange and evil forces descending from the void. These forces polluted the world and even made the immortals and Buddhas crazy. So, some immortals and Buddhas who remained awake prevented the world from being destroyed by the ghost seeds and the crazy immortals and Buddhas, and ended the mythological era with their own hands," Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. "How did it end?" Qin Yang couldn't help asking. The Taoist senior did a lot of research and consulted many books, but he only came up with a rough guess. The awake immortals and Buddhas used some unknown forbidden technique to isolate the world and the void, preventing the ghost seeds from descending into this world. Then the awake immortals and Buddhas began to clean up the ghost seeds and crazy immortals and Buddhas remaining in the world. That battle completely destroyed the mythological era. Zhao Zinmo's face became solemn. "Void. Isolation, but according to what you said, ghost weapons and ghost seeds are essentially the same existence, just with different strengths. It seems that they are not completely isolated." Qin Yang frowned. "Yes, this is where the senior is desperate. The forbidden isolation technique of the immortals and Buddhas does not seem to be able to completely isolate the malice from the void. There are still ghost weapons and even ghost species descending. Of course, the power of these ghost species is much weaker than the ghost species descending in the mythological era. But Dacian Kingdom no longer has immortals and Buddhas to protect it." At the very end of the book, the senior seems to have predicted that Dacian Kingdom will be completely destroyed. Zhao Zinmo sighed. "But since the demise of Dacian Kingdom, there should be no records of ghost species appearing. Only ghost weapons will appear again." Qin Yang frowned. What kind of changes may have happened in this? I have no way of knowing. According to the Taoist's guess, he originally thought that the forbidden isolation technique would gradually lose its power after his death, and then a large number of ghost species would descend again. That's why he was desperate that humans seemed to have no way to face these ghost species. Zhao Zinmo said in a low voice. I once communicated with Master Zhao, and he said that after the demise of Dacian Kingdom, the ghost species that appeared frequently also disappeared strangely. Qin Yang said in a low voice. The arguments of the two seem to correspond. My guess is this. The Taoist's original prediction was correct, but for some reason, the forbidden isolation technique became stronger, resulting in no more ghost species appearing after the demise of the Great Qin Kingdom. Now the ghost weapons appear more and more frequently, probably because the forbidden isolation technique is gradually starting to lose its effectiveness. Of course, I hope my guess is wrong. Zhao Zinmo said helplessly. Qin Yang finally understood what Zhao Zinmo meant by despair. Once the forbidden isolation technique loses its effectiveness, the Void's malice will once again bring ghost species to the Dao dynasty. Who in the world can stop it now? Qin Yang frowned deeply, but he soon regained his composure. Everything Zhao Zinmo said at present was just speculation, and it might not come true. Even if the speculation is true, fear of despair is the most useless emotion. Qin Yang had already realized this truth when he was suffering from a terminal illness in his previous life. What needs to be done now is to rely on the proficiency panel to quickly improve his strength. Even if the ghost species descend in the future, it may not be without the ability to fight. I only have this information at the moment. I'll tell you when I find something more useful. Zhao Zinmo continued to speak. Qin Yang nodded and left the study. I was thinking about going back to continue my cultivation, but suddenly I thought of something. I forgot to forget it. I still have to give an explanation to people. Qin Yang shook his head and left the Zunshan division with the Hanyu knife on his back. But when he left, the sun was setting, and the shadows were stretched a little longer. Suburban area. Zuanian Temple was still as desolate and dilapidated as ever. After night, it was even more gloomy and no one dared to approach. Liu Yun bit a green wild fruit that he had picked from somewhere and walked slowly back to Zuanian Temple with the King Mu longsword on his back. I didn't expect that this Yangningzhou city seemed peaceful, but it was so dirty and secret. Liu Yun thought of what happened today and sighed slightly. Just as he returned to the gate of Zuanian Temple, his eyes narrowed slightly. A black-robed figure quietly stood at the gate. The figure wore a mask with a black fish painted on it, with his hands behind his back, as if he had been waiting for a long time. Liu Yun could feel a strong smell of blood from this person. Even an executioner who had been chopping heads for a lifetime should not have such a bloody smell. Liu Yun. He has the cultivation of a heavenly soul, and is from Ling County. He has a kind heart. He has been traveling around since 3 years ago, and he likes to fight for the weak and stand up for others. Am I right? The Blackfish Mask Man said lightly. You are right. But I shouldn't have offended the Blackfish building. Liu Yun narrowed his eyes. During these days in Yangning City, he still vaguely knew about this mysterious organization. Someone paid to buy your life. The Blackfish Mask Man said coldly. It seems that some people are afraid. Liu Yun smiled. It's not a good thing to meddle in other people's business. If you meddle in things that you shouldn't meddle in, you will lose your life. The Blackfish Mask Man looked vicious. I can't manage it, but I, the Taoist, will also manage it. Liu Yun calmly drew out the greenwood longsword behind him. I originally wanted to give you a way out, but it seems that you won't choose it. Sure enough, none of the spiritual masters are normal people. The Blackfish Mask Man shook his head. The personalities of spiritual masters are very extreme. People like Liu Yun are extremely righteous. I originally wanted to threaten Liu Yun and make him leave Yangning City. But now, it is better to kill him. The man with the blackfish mask waved his hand gently. The next moment, many malicious eyes appeared near Zuanian Temple. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The assassins from the Blackfish building who had been ambushed for a long time suddenly emerged from the darkness. They all held a black crossbow in their hands and suddenly shot out dozens of sharp crossbow arrows. Spiritual masters are not warriors, and their bodies are not that tough. They will still be pierced by crossbow arrows. What's more, this crossbow arrow is also quenched with poison. If the skin is scratched, it will be dead without a burial place. Chapter 199 Encounter. Fierce arrows turned into wisps of black light and attacked. When Liu Yun saw the blackfish masked man, he had already prepared himself in his heart and made hand gestures. Whoosh, the greenwood longsword behind him suddenly came out of its sheath, flashed a green light, and turned into more than a dozen green small swords. These small swords quickly wrapped around Liu Yun's body like swimming fish, forming an airtight barrier. Ding ding ding, the arrows were cut and shredded by the greenwood small swords, and could not hurt Liu Yun at all. Sword Spirit Master, it seems that you are on the path of Sword Heart. No wonder you like to meddle in other people's business. The blackfish masked man's eyes flickered. This Sword Spirit Master is a branch of Spirit Master. These ordinary Spirit Masters practice magic and various mysterious methods. But Sword Spirit Masters are very extreme. They only practice a spirit sword, and one sword breaks all methods, and the attack power is extremely powerful. It is this special practice method that makes their personalities more extreme than ordinary spirit masters. The next moment, Liu Yun urged several small green swords to kill the assassins from the Blackfish building who were attacking him. Ding ding ding, these assassins from the Blackfish building were not small fish either. Their cultivation had reached the Ganki realm, but they were still a little weak in the face of Liu Yun's flying sword. They caught sight of the green light and were about to swing their swords to resist. Whoosh, the green light suddenly accelerated. The sharp sword light pierced through their protective Ganki and pierced their hearts. In an instant, several assassins from the Blackfish building wailed and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the blackfish masked man's eyes turned cold, and he finally made a move. A black slender iron sword slipped from his sleeve. The next moment, the black iron sword burst out with amazing murderous aura and stabbed Liu Yun directly. He was actually using a sword as well. The iron sword was also incredibly fast, like a black snake coming out of a hole, baring its fangs and rushing towards Liu Yun. Quick! Seeing this, Liu Yun immediately pinched his sword finger and pointed it at the blackfish masked man. In an instant, 3 green lights tore the air apart and shot out. The blackfish masked man sneered, flicked his wrist, and the black thin iron sword shook like a black snake twisting its body. 3 clang clang clangs. The 3 green lights were instantly shaken away by the black thin iron sword. Liu Yun only felt a sinister breath coming towards him. He seemed to see a black poisonous snake rushing towards him. Cut. Liu Yun's face was solemn, and he pinched the magic formula again. More than a dozen strands of green light flashed and turned into a long sword again, slashing out fiercely. The sword energy whistled in the night sky, and the black snake roared to the sky. Boom. The 2 long swords collided fiercely. Liu Yun still suffered a little, and his body was hit by the air wave and retreated more than 10 steps. This blackfish masked man was also a master of the 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head. After the 3 flowers gather at the top of the head, the true energy will turn into vitality. This vitality is powerful, and no less powerful than the sword energy. Moreover, warriors have their own strength, so Liu Yun will naturally be defeated if he fights hard. The next moment, many assassins from the Blackfish building rushed towards Liu Yun. The Blackfish masked man kept putting pressure on Liu Yun from the front, and his black sword was like a snake, constantly stabbing at Liu Yun's various vital points. For a time, Liu Yun's situation became precarious. The Sword Spirit Master's attack was very powerful, but it had a fatal weakness. His defense was very weak, and he didn't have the tough physique of a warrior. That is, Liu Yun's sword control technique was superb, and he could barely block all the attacks. But his mind was also consuming violently. Are you going to die? I originally wanted to give you a way to live. You don't want it. Don't blame me when you go to hell. The Blackfish masked man noticed Liu Yun's weakness. Liu Yun said nothing, controlling the green wooden sword, constantly resisting attacks from all directions. The Blackfish masked man seemed to want to end the battle quickly, and the speed of the black iron sword stabbing out became faster and faster. Ding ding ding. Liu Yun was finding it increasingly difficult to resist. It's time to end it. The Blackfish masked man sneered. With his mind being consumed by high intensity, Liu Yun revealed a huge flaw. The Blackfish Mask Man would naturally not miss this opportunity. He united his mind and body, held the black iron sword in one hand, and stabbed it out viciously. Black snake bites the heart. Hiss hiss hiss. When the black iron sword passed through the air, it made a sound similar to the hissing of a black snake. Liu Yan was about to be pierced through the heart by a sword. Roar! A fierce dragon roar suddenly echoed over the Xuanyuan temple. With a bang, a fierce black shadow rushed over. This figure was like a dragon coming out of a cave, fierce and monstrous, exuding a heart-pounding murderous aura. The next moment, a dark blue and extremely cold knife light spanned dozens of meters and slashed towards the Blackfish Mask Man. Advance or retreat? Exclamation mark. The Blackfish Mask Man did not hesitate at all, decisively gave up the offensive, and flashed back to avoid the knife light. He was still able to pierce Liu Yan with a sword just now, but doing so would leave him no time to defend against the deep cold blade light. In the next moment, even if he had the energy to protect his body, he would probably be cut in half by a knife. The Blackfish Mask Man would naturally not risk his life for Liu Yan. Qin Yang. When the Blackfish Mask Man saw the attacking figure clearly, he gritted his teeth instantly. It's me. Speaking of which, I really have a connection with your Blackfish building. How come I can run into you wherever I go? Qin Yang held up the Hanua knife, looked at the Blackfish Mask Man, and smiled. It's just right to get rid of you tonight. The Blackfish Mask Man said coldly. Which floor owner are you? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. The second floor owner of the Blackfish building. The Mask Man said coldly. That's fine. I killed the third floor owner of you before. This time I'll kill the second one. Qin Yang grinned. How shameless. The Mask Man roared, and the whole person quickly rushed towards Qin Yang. With a shake of his wrist, the black sword in his hand suddenly turned into 4 black lights and shot out. They were the head, neck, heart and lower abdomen. A small snake dares to bite me? Qin Yang laughed disdainfully, and the cold abyss knife was wrapped with a cold and extremely cold breath, as if it turned into an evil dragon and pounced out. Boom! The knife seemed to raise a huge wave in the Black Sea, and instantly swallowed the 4 sword lights. With a clang, the second floor owner was knocked back more than 10 meters by Qin Yang's knife, and his face was red. Such a deep power. The second floor owner's eyes flashed with horror. Qin Yang's power just now was too overbearing, and it also contained extremely cold power. 3 flowers gather at the top of the head. Open. The second floor owner tapped his body with his fingers. His body shape did not change much, but his body emerged with wisps of sinister black air, turning into a black snake phantom. The next moment, his figure flashed and attacked again strangely. The black sword turned into a roaring black snake and pointed at Qin Yang's throat. Qin Yang also opened up his unparalleled strength. His muscles bulged and slashed away fiercely. Boom boom. 2 masters started fighting in the abandoned and dilapidated Xuanyuan temple. The true energy and vitality continued to explode, and the sword energy and sword lights wept out, leaving traces on the ground. As the fight became more and more intense, the 2 rushed directly into the Taoist temple. Boom boom. The Xuanyuan temple, which had been in disrepair for a long time, naturally could not withstand the tossing, and collapsed after a few breaths. 2 figures rushed out of the ruins, and continued to fight. And Liu Yan was also urging the King Mu longsword to fight with the remaining assassins from the Blackfish building. Chapter 200 Domineering. After the evil dragon swallowing evil sword technique was perfected, the sword force became even stronger and more ferocious. Qin Yang waved the cold abyss sword, like an evil dragon turning the river upside down. As for the second floor master sword technique, it tends to be sinister and changeable, and will inadvertently give a fatal blow. The 2 sides exchanged nearly 100 moves, and the second floor master launched several fatal attacks, but only pierced the opponent's skin without hurting the vital parts. And Qin Yang's rude and fierce divine power made the second floor master begin to feel overwhelmed. He himself was not a warrior who was good at frontal combat. Even if his own vitality was more than the opponent's true energy, the opponent's divine power was too terrifying, directly erasing these differences and even suppressing himself. His physical strength dropped rapidly, and the sword light was not as sharp and fierce as before. Can't stand it? I didn't use all my strength. Qin Yang forced the second floor master back with a knife and sneered. What a joke. What strength do you have left? The second floor master didn't believe Qin Yang's nonsense. He held the sword in one hand, his eyes flickering. He seemed to be at a disadvantage, but he was not in a hurry. After the fight just now, he vaguely saw some loopholes in Qin Yang's swordsmanship. This was the characteristic of his venomous snake swordsmanship. He could see through the weaknesses of his opponent's moves through keen observation. It was just that Qin Yang's evil dragon swallowing evil sword had already reached its peak, and the second floor owner was not so insightful. It only takes about 50 moves. I should be able to see through and capture that weakness. The second floor owner murmured in his heart. He felt that he could still survive 50 moves. Qin Yang's power was indeed terrifying, but he was focused on defense and relying on his own vitality to offset the huge force. There would not be too much problem. Once he saw through the weaknesses of Qin Yang's swordsmanship, it would be the opponent's death. You Blackfish building still don't know me well enough. Qin Yang shook his head slightly. The next moment, he suddenly accelerated and turned into a black light and swept out. The second floor owner's eyes condensed, his steps changed, and he swung the sword. But the next moment, the second floor owner's pupils suddenly dilated. Qin Yang, who was attacking, burst out a deep and extremely cold airflow, and his eyes turned into a deep black. He can actually burst out again. The second floor owner was horrified and hurriedly increased the vitality poured into the black iron sword. When the cold abyss knife slashed down, ding, the black iron sword suddenly bent down and a deep cold air suddenly spread. The second floor owner stepped back continuously and the knuckles of his right hand holding the sword had cracked and blood continued to flow out, staining the sword. The next moment, Qin Yang held the knife with both hands. His eyes flashed with fierce and brutal intentions and slashed down quickly. Evil dragon, extreme evil heartless slash. The shadow of an evil dragon with a long knife in its mouth appeared behind Qin Yang, and the ferocious dragon head roared to the sky. The fierce and evil spirit made everyone feel palpitations. This evil spirit, even Liu Yan, who was fighting with the killer of the Blackfish building, couldn't help but look sideways. The pressure on the second floor owner was even greater. He mobilized the vitality of his whole body and blocked the black iron longsword in front of his chest. With a bang, the black sword shook violently and the terrifying power spread to the second floor owner's arm. Ah! The whole arm bone suddenly cracked. The next moment, Qin Yang's left fist hit the second floor owner's chest fiercely. Boom. The fierce dragon elephant fist force fiercely shattered the second floor owner's body protection vitality. Puff. The second floor owner's chest was sunken and exploded, and he raised his head and spurted out blood mist. The next moment, a flash of knife light swept across the second floor owner's head. A head suddenly flew up. The second floor owner of the Blackfish died. It allows me to activate the Yinfu state and the unparalleled strength at the same time. You are the first. Qin Yang looked at the second floor owner's head falling to the ground and said lightly, "Whoosh." On the other side, Liu Yan also eliminated all the assassins of the Blackfish building. I originally thought that I would help you after killing these trash. It seems that I thought too much. Liu Yan came over with the King Mu longsword. You saved me once last time. I'll save you once this time. It's even. Qin Yang smiled faintly. It's different from last time. I owe you a life. Liu Yan shook his head. Let's not argue about this first. Let's deal with these bodies first. Qin Yang said in a deep voice. There were too many bodies of the killers from the Blackfish building, and Qin Yang didn't have so many corpse burning talismans on him. As a sword cultivator, Liu Yan didn't even know how to make a corpse burning talisman. The two could only put the bodies together and pick up branches to burn them. Anyway, this is a wilderness, and no one would come here in the middle of the night. Qin Yang even touched the body on purpose, but only touched a few banknotes. After the body turned into ashes, he and Liu Yan left Zuaniuan Temple and entered the city. It was just dawn, and there were some people on the street. Some breakfast stalls were already full of people. In particular, some porters who worked at the docks had been working all night and were drinking wine and eating noodles to recover their spirits. Qin Yang found a noodle shop and ordered 2 bowls of wontons. How did you get into trouble with the Blackfish house? Qin Yang asked casually before the wontons were served. Could it be that, because of the incident with the third owner of the building, he was also on the mind of the Blackfish house? It's a long story. These days I killed some bullies and hooligans in Yangning City. I accidentally discovered a chamber of commerce doing some human trafficking. They used all kinds of means to deceive and exploit the people from the villages and towns near Yangning Prefecture City, making many people sign indentures and serve as slaves. But after these people were transferred to that Chamber of Commerce, they disappeared silently. I can't find them, no matter how hard I look. Liu Yan said in a deep voice. Then you killed all the people in that Chamber of Commerce? Qin Yang seemed to understand. After I killed almost all the people in the Chamber of Commerce, I found that this Chamber of Commerce was just the tip of the iceberg. In addition to this Chamber of Commerce, there are some forces in the city doing the same thing. Not only near Yangning City, these forces will abduct and sell people from various counties. Liu Yan shook his head. Qin Yang thought about Xiaohuan's kidnapping before, and was thoughtful. That time, it was the Blackfish House that was secretly doing the evil. He felt that Liu Yan was very likely to have investigated some inside information and was discovered by the Blackfish House, so he was hunted down. Liu Yan continued. Later, I secretly investigated and finally found out where the people who were trafficked were sent. Where? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. Wengxin Temple, Liu Yan said coldly. Qin Yang looked suspicious. Wengxin Temple, one of the 4 major sects in Yangning Prefecture, is full of masters and has considerable power. You found out about Wengxin Temple, and then Blackfish House attacked you in the middle of the night. I'm afraid that Blackfish House and Wengxin Temple have some connection. Qin Yang said. Liu Yan said indifferently. It's just a nest of snakes and rats. But what does Wengxin Temple want to do by arresting so many people? Qin Yang frowned. There are only a few possibilities. Slave trade. Since ancient times, slave trade has been very profitable. It may also be that some strange rituals require a large number of living people to be sacrificed. Some evil skills also require the essence and blood of living people. Liu Yan said in a deep voice. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.